The meetings are all very well, Liz. Of course they serve a valuable purpose in distributing leaflets.
Well, what else can we do? I mean, the meetings of the Doctor's Left Book Club group are having some effect.
Precisely, we're spreading the word. But don't imagine that's going to stop the Hitler-Chamberlain alliance. Keep your voice down. That one will put it all around the hospital that we're a couple of flaming reds.
An alliance? Isn't that putting it a bit strongly?
It's what the Daily Workers called it from the beginning.
Perhaps you were one.
What?
A flaming red? Oh, how exciting. A Bolshevik.
Don't be absurd.
Well, if you read the Daily Worker.
Does that shock you? Yes, I suppose it would with your background.
Oh, Sarah, really? Do you have to throw that in my face?
Merely an observation. Look, I read the Daily Worker to get a different perspective. One you certainly won't find in the Times or the Herald or the News Chronicle.
It may be different, but is it right?
I don't know. But if Chamberlain's really planning to sell out the cheques... Oh, damn it, that's why we're having the meetings. We can preach to the converted till the cows come home, but that's not going to stop Chamberlain or stop a German invasion of Czechoslovakia. We've got to stand up and be counted.
How?
What are you doing tomorrow?
I was going home.
Jolly weekend at the Manor House, tennis and cocktails.
Sarah, you're doing it again.
Sorry. How does one get rid of a chip on the shoulder? Perhaps it's a clinical condition. Surgery?
Why not become a consultant on 3,000 a year?
The classic British way of coping with rebels. Buy them off. I don't deny it'd be rather nice. Harley Street and a chauffeur. Look, couldn't you delay going home till Sunday?
I suppose so.
Good. Then you can give me a lift to London in your car. And I'll read you bits out of the Daily Worker. Now, let's go and deal with the varicose veins and hernias.
Is this how you do it?
Hmm?
Pink gin.
Oh, my dear Angela, I'm so sorry. What an appalling host I am. You fight your way through a demonstration to get here, and I don't even offer you a drink.
That was hours ago. I'm quite capable of pouring a couple of drinks. Is it all quiet out there now?
No, as far as I can hear, one or two stragglers shouting, "Stand by the cheques." And I applaud the sentiment. I do not applaud mob violence.
As far as I could see, the police horses were the target for most of the violence.
On every horse is a man. He crashes to the pavement and gets kicked and punched by the crowd. That's not very pleasant.
There's a lot of real anger over government policy. It was bound to come out sooner or later.
Yes, well, I'm angry too, Angela, but there's a danger of oversimplification. What happened out there today was part of a left-inspired plot to foster the so-called Popular Front.
And thus paved the way to Red Revolution.
Yes, well, you laugh if you like. But however genuine the anti-Chamberlain sentiments of the crowd are, the majority were duped.
By Soviet puppet masters?
Yes, if you like. Who the devil's that? What a day. Oh, by the way, I booked a table at Quagg's for 9, but at this rate...
Arthur, don't worry, I had a late lunch. Oh. Aren't you going to answer it?
No, yes, excuse me. Liz, what on earth?
Sorry, Daddy. Awful sight, I know, but it's not as bad as it looks.
Well, come along in. What have you done to yourself?
Liz!
Did you have an accident? Were you attacked?
Dragged through a hedge
But
backwards?
don't worry about me. I'm not hurt. Well, perhaps just a bit bruised. I was in the demonstration this afternoon.
Oh, my poor girl. Why didn't you wait till it was over?
Daddy, I don't think you've quite understood. I mean, I was part of it.
You were what?
I was on the march. We were moving up Whitehall to Downing Street when the police threw a cordon across our route. The crowd started to push.
You were part of that mob.
Daddy, please.
Well, don't expect sympathy.
If you let me finish, you might be inclined to be sympathetic. Although that's not what I came here for. I came to have a hot bath and to clean up.
But what happened? How did you get into this state?
I was trying to explain. Everything was calm and orderly until the police tried to head us off. The crowd started to break through the cordon, and the police went berserk, riding their horses into us and thrashing about with batons and just hauling people out at random.
Yes, of course, and they were entirely unprovoked.
Yes.
You just said that the crowd was trying to break through a police cordon.
Well, we had the right to get through. Isn't that part of our democratic tradition, Father? The right to demonstrate, the right of free speech. Aren't these just the rights that you yourself say are being eroded by the dictators in Europe?
Liz, I don't want a political debate.
It's a political situation. Angela, do you think you'd get me a drink? Brandy, if there is any.
Yes, of course.
I'm sorry, Liz. Look, can we please have the facts?
The facts are that the demonstration was peaceful and orderly until the police started beating people up. If you don't believe me, have a look at this.
Liz?
Yes. But there's worse to come.
What?
Angela, I think you'd better make that 2 large brandies. I was one of the people that the police hauled out. "You'll do, darling," said a nice, rosy-cheeked British bobby and manhandled me towards the Black Maria.
They took you to the station?
Yes.
And you, were charged?
I appear before the magistrate on Monday.
You realise what this means?
Surely only a small fine.
Oh, yeah, this will be a fine, all right. There'll also be a lot of publicity. It's not going to help my career. Or Lizzie's, for that matter.
MPs, doctor-daughter in anti-government demonstration, that sort of thing.
Precisely. Well, you're a journalist.
Yes.
I'm an embarrassment to you.
Liz, my darling, you're my daughter. I love you. But
I have become a liability.
how did you get involved?
Somebody at the hospital suggested it, Dr. Martin. We've been going to the Doctors Left Book Club meetings. You know, the Gallants thing.
Yes, I know.
Oh, Father! We've only taken to the streets. Ideas you yourself have often expressed in the house.
What political persuasion is he, this Dr. Martin?
Dr. Martin is a she. As for her political views, you will have a chance to ask her yourself. I've invited her down to Lockfield for a few days. Now, do you think I could have a bath?
If it goes on like this, Peter and Laura will be married in an empty church.
Oh, can't be as bad as that.
7 telephone calls. 7 between 9 and 11:30 this morning, all making excuses.
What sort of excuses?
Oh, the Delameres had quite overlooked the fact that their son... Do you remember that rather spoilt child with spots? Well, apparently he's still on holiday and they promised to take him on a fishing treat, whatever that is.
The Hereford Delameres?
No, Suffolk.
Oh, that's all right then. I never cared for the Suffolk people. He's Deputy Lord Lieutenant and he sweats.
Sorry?
Oh, I suppose they'll have to get back the wedding presents. What a shame. And for you, Rosie, after you worked so hard. No, I'm wrong. You only get back the presents when it's you who's cancelled the wedding. Isn't that splendid? They'll be able to keep them all.
All this fuss just because Liz gets her name in the papers.
Do you know the Delameres sent quite a hideous vase? I dropped it quite soon after the telephone call. It was an accident. Well, I'm sure Mr. Freud would find it a very significant accident.
No, dear, he wouldn't. Not now.
Uh-huh.
He's very, very ill.
Such idiots. Liz was only taking part in a silly demonstration.
She was arrested, Vicky. That was the silly part of it. She'll be up before the beak. Can you wonder that people don't want to come to the wedding when they think we've got a Bolshevik in the family? Look what happened to the Tsar and those lovely children. People have very long memories, you know.
Granny, it isn't as if she's going to turn up at the church with a machine gun.
Well, I wouldn't object to that if the Suffolk people were there.
She was only taking part in a peaceful demonstration.
Well, she can't have been behaving very peacefully, or the police wouldn't have arrested her.
Poor Arthur.
Exactly. Think of the embarrassment. Look at the papers. He might even have to resign his office.
It'll blow over. Oh, hell!
Victoria!
Why is everything such a mess? Why hasn't Klaus telephoned? I'm fed up with stupid men.
Oh, no, Klaus isn't stupid.
All men are stupid at a certain level. Just look at the trouble in the world at the moment. Who's caused it? You, Granny? Rosie? Me? No, men. Stupid men.
Well, I don't think it's quite as uncomplicated as that, dear.
Klaus promised to telephone. He said he'd either be down or he'd telephone. But he hasn't. You see, totally unreliable men. Do you think he's been called up? I mean, the papers... Well, they're full of such terrifying things. And what about this WVS thing you've got into?
Well, it's a scheme of Lady Redding's to release manpower so that women can do certain jobs.
What sort of jobs?
Oh, deal with evacuees, for example. Distribute gas.
You were going to say gas masks. They're going to distribute gas masks.
It's only a precaution, Vicky.
But it must mean there's a serious threat. And anyway, how do you do it?
Do what, Vicky?
How do you put a gas mask on a baby?
Oh, darling. Darling, you mustn't think like that.
How can I stop thinking about it? I think about it all the time. About Jack and Phyllis's baby, and if Klaus and I ever have a baby, and all the millions of babies. Doesn't it frighten you? There's a man in this village. Bainbridge, I think his name is. He was gassed in the last war. He can hardly breathe. He hasn't been out of his cottage for years. He just lies there with his sister reading to him, and he's such a very nice old man.
Stop it, Vicky. Stop it. At once. Please.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Granny. I don't know why I suddenly... Do call me if Klaus telephones.
Of course, darling.
Oh, hello, Rosie.
Arthur.
Oh. Mother. I gather you've read all about it.
Poor Arthur. Many repercussions.
One or two frosty telephone calls. Oh, and one from the Chief Whip, who very carefully assured me that at this stage he was merely seeking for information, and that he'd telephone me again on Monday when the magistrate has pronounced.
How's Liz?
Bruised and unrepentant.
Naughty girl. Even so, one can't help
What?
admiring her, but that doesn't excuse her behaviour.
I don't deny her courage, Mother, but don't you go round saying that you admire her. Well, any repercussions down here?
Yes, a few cancellations for Peter and Laura's wedding.
Oh, Lord. Nobody we like, I hope.
The Suffolk Delameres.
Oh, isn't he the one who drinks?
The Hereford Delamere drinks. This one sweats.
Oh.
Oh, there has been one more repercussion down here.
How was that?
George Cranford turned up.
You know, Arthur, Lady Mary's husband.
Yes, I know. He's a member of the Constituency Association Committee. Well, is he gone again?
No, I offered him a drink, but he said he'd smoke a cigar in the garden while he waited for him.
He was wearing a very tight smile.
Yes, I can imagine. Well, I'd better go. Oh, hello, George.
Arthur.
Oh, come along into the study. You can talk in there. Sorry to have kept you waiting.
Not a bit. Have your chat with your man Gates. Doing your Rosie's a bit of good.
Rosie, come round to dinner on Monday. I could do with some intelligent conversation.
I hope that doesn't mean he thinks I'm going gaga.
Oh, I gather you refused to drink when you arrived.
It was some time ago.
No, but now. Sherry, whiskey and soda?
A whiskey with a dash of Malvern water, please.
Good, good. I'm very sorry to have kept you hanging around, even though you had your cigar and Rosie's and Gates. I know we said 5:30 when we telephoned this morning, but a few things blew up in London just before I left.
Hardly surprising.
What?
The things blew up. It's very distressing, Arthur.
Oh, what is?
This business with Elizabeth.
Oh, Liz. Caused a few ripples, has it?
Ripples, a damn great tidal wave. The telephone hasn't stopped all morning. I'm sorry, Arthur, but the majority of people in this constituency are... Well, I don't want to sound Colonel Blimpish, but they're true blue Tories and straightforward.
Well, that doesn't necessarily follow.
What doesn't?
The true blue means straightforward. Oh, never mind.
You know what I mean. Damn it, man, some of that mob, do you know what they were demonstrating for? Arms for Spain. Arms for that communist, anarchist red rabble. The chap I know's got a long-haired son out there who went there straight to Eton. He was on the telephone this morning.
From Spain?
No, not the son, the chap I know. He lives over at Knighton, Colonel Foster.
Well, everybody knows Claude Foster. I've shot with him 100 times.
Well, there you are, then. Claude was positively spluttering and spitting down the telephone about what's happening to our young.
Well, Foster is apt to splutter.
I don't think you're taking this too seriously, you know.
What?
You do want to hang on to your seat, don't you, Arthur?
Well, of course, but I don't think there's likely to be an election before 1940.
Only 2 more years. I can tell you, there was an emergency meeting of the association this morning, and several people are gunning for you. Now, I was asked to talk to you and report back next Monday. Now, the key point is this. Did you know
What?
that your daughter was going on that demonstration?
No, I didn't. And if I had known, I'd have done my best to talk her out of it.
Well, that might help to calm them down a bit. Surely you understand that our supporters aren't going to take kindly to being represented by a chap who's got a daughter who's a red and gets her name in the papers.
What? That's nonsense. Liz isn't a communist.
What is she then?
Well, she's a liberal, a radical, even a socialist, maybe. You know, reads the New Statesman.
That sounds like a red to me.
You don't have children, George.
Children? No. Mary doesn't seem to care for them.
Yeah, well, after a certain age, there's not much you can do about children. They have this annoying tendency of growing up and having their own ideas. Now, I thought Liz behaved foolishly, and I told her so. But if she decided to join the International Brigade and go to Spain and start blowing up bridges, there's damn all I could do about it.
Well, I'll tell the committee you didn't know and that you don't approve. You may well have to make some sort of public statement. Whether you make it or not is entirely up to you. Let's hope it all just blows over.
Well, things usually do, if one is patient. By the way, George, are there any mutterings down here about the police, well, how shall I put it, behaving with less than their usual restraint?
Well, preposterous nonsense. Who's been putting that about?
Well, there are one or two oblique references to it in the Herald.
The Herald? You read the Herald?
Yes, George, and the Chronicle. I read all the newspapers. It's what's called keeping abreast of things. Don't worry, George. I don't read the Daily Worker.
Well, good night, Arthur. And keep an eye on that daughter of yours. For all our sakes.
Would you like a drink? I have a feeling that you're going to need one.
Oh, why?
Well, Klaus arrived back a few minutes ago. He's upstairs with Vicky, who's murmuring about the foolishness of men and clucking over him like an old mother hen. I must say he doesn't look too good.
Oh, what's the matter with him?
Apparently he went to a Moseley meeting last night and got caught up in a brawl.
Oh, what next?
Shall I make it a very large drink? I know you're worried, Arthur. I know it's very hard for a man to bring up two girls on his own, especially when one is hell-bent on going to Holloway, but do you think we could possibly change the subject? I've got a few worries of my own.
Oh, I am sorry, Rosie. Yes, I suppose I have been using you as a whipping boy. Well, what's your problem?
Oh, the old one, Geoffrey.
Geoffrey? Has he been on a bat again?
Oh, that I can cope with. Let's face it, I've managed for 12 years.
Well, then what is it?
It's the helpless, pathetic performances that's the real problem. Do you know that he rings me up at least twice a day? He drops in unannounced, uses Layford as if it were his own house.
Yeah, well, I suppose in a
He
way...
made it over to me. It's mine.
Yes, of course. But I thought you got him back on his feet. Last I heard, he was back at work and had got over Penelope Finch.
Yes. He hasn't got over me.
Vicky, darling, hello.
Hello.
What's the matter?
Nothing.
I didn't see you for 2 weeks, and when I arrived, you hardly acknowledged me, and nothing's the matter.
Why did you have to come down? You know how cross Daddy is about the demonstration. You know there'll only be rows.
I didn't want to have rows. I've had quite enough trouble in the last few days. Oh, by the way, how's Nanny?
Oh, she's still in the nursing home. Oh, your friend's here. Had a puncture on the way down. She's covered in grease. She's been in the bathroom for ages. Why didn't you come down together?
She had to go to a meeting in Birmingham, and I had to go to court.
What happened? Was it terrifying?
No, not really. I was fined £5. The stipendiary wouldn't listen to a word I had to say, just accepted the police evidence.
Oh, there you are. You see, you're blaming the police, and that'll only make Father furious again.
I can't help that. I know what happened.
You don't know what's been happening here. People have been telephoning to say they're not coming to Peter and Laura's wedding. They've read about you in the papers.
God. Vicky, do you think I'm lying?
What about?
About the way the police behaved.
I don't know. But if you hadn't gone on the demonstration, you'd have spared everyone a lot of unhappiness. Mr. Cranford thinks you're a communist.
George Cranford probably thinks Major Attlee is a communist. I had to go on that demonstration.
Why?
Because I believed it was the right thing to do.
Her father thinks you got in with the wrong sort of crowd. And anyway, you say the police were violent. Klaus says he can't imagine how they keep their tempers.
What does he know about it?
He was beaten up on Saturday night at a Moseley meeting.
What? Well, why? I mean, how?
now?
Some fighting broke out. 4 left-wing thugs had a policeman trapped in an alley and were kicking and punching him, and Klaus went to help him.
Well, quite the hero.
Don't say it like that. It was very brave.
Perhaps. But one has to ask oneself why he was at a Moseley meeting at all, when he professes to be an anti-Nazi.
There you are. You see, you've started again.
Oh, I'm sorry. I shan't say another word. I shall drift around, smiling and singing and being frightfully nice to everybody.
Don't worry. You'll have plenty of chance to talk. Especially now she's here.
She? Arthur, if I don't do the interview, they'll only send someone else.
But why? Why can't they just leave it all alone? All this meddling and prying.
Because it's news. It's a public interest and concern.
Public interest? An interview with Liz, a little girl who...
A young woman. Look, she's a qualified doctor and the daughter of an MP. The public have a right to hear her opinion, if she's prepared to give it.
What sort of approach do you have in mind?
Why she felt compelled to demonstrate. And the police issue, of course.
Oh, I thought as much. It's always the same. Why is it that when the left take violence onto the streets, the police are cast in the role of the aggressors? And, of course, I can't stop you.
No.
But you do realize the more publicity this matter receives, the more difficult it's going to make things for me.
Look, I can't prevent the publicity, but I might, how can I put it, soften the impact.
What's happened to the integrity of the press now?
Some journalists might sensationalize the police issue. I won't.
You mean you'll, play it down?
I'm not saying any more till I've spoken to Liz.
Can I suggest what do you people call it? An angle. Yes, it might force you to be impartial. Yes, you're going to like this, Angela.
Arthur, why do people always think they can do other people's jobs? You know, you're just like my dentist. I've got the most wonderful idea for an article. Perhaps we could collaborate. Certainly, I said. On one condition. You let me come down here occasionally and drill a few teeth.
Are you all right, darling? Did you have a nice rest?
Thank you, yes. Good afternoon.
Hello, Klaus. Do come and sit down. Do you feel up to some tea?
Up to?
She means, do you want cake?
No, thank you, not now.
Perhaps Liz could look at your wound later.
There's a wound under that.
It's a very nasty gash. Klaus had to go to hospital. And he's covered with bruises all over.
How do you know?
He told me.
Oh, dear.
You've heard? Has it punched and kicked with steel toes to their boots?
Vicky did mention something. I'm sorry.
In Germany, they like very much to have scars on the face.
Oh, really?
Yes, because scars here on the cheek are signs that they've upholded our honor.
Upheld.
Yes, upheld. In Germany, at the universities, we fight many duels. I've never fought a duel and have therefore no scars on the face. But now, perhaps I shall have one scar, and people will think I've upheld my honor.
Oh, Klaus, you're so funny.
Yes.
And Oswald Moseley, was he funny?
Liz.
So Oswald is a very interesting man. I like very much his slogan, Britain first. Patriotism is healthy. Yes, and I like also his view of the corporate state and his efforts to unite the classes. All very much the same as Mussolini has done in Italy.
So you like Moseley and you like Mussolini. And do you like
Cake.
the way...
Do you like seed cake, Klaus?
Yes. Yes, thank you, Vicky. Yes, I like seed cake. Yes, I like English seed cake and the English police. Vicky has told you. The police are very restrained. Moseley was merely addressing the crowd when the communists attacked. In Germany, this is not allowed.
Are there many communists left in Germany?
Hello, Sarah.
I'm sorry.
Or social democrats, or trade unionists, or Jews, or gypsies, for that matter?
Sarah, you've met Vicky, of course. This is Klaus von Heinig, a friend of hers. Dr. Sarah Martin.
How do you do?
I'm sorry, I seem to have interrupted something. Shall I go and walk round the garden?
No.
You know something about Germany, I gather.
Oh, yes. Yes, quite a lot. Do you?
I'm a German.
In that case, you'll know that all opposition parties have been dissolved and their leaders imprisoned. That trade union premises have been occupied and their funds confiscated. That thousands of people have been thrown into concentration
Not
camps.
thousands, but a few. It is no secret. Enemies of the state, like your Captain Bailey Stewart in the Tower of London. But I've also heard that the Fuhrer often visits the camps.
Presumably to meet the people who elected him.
as your Prime Minister visits a tower to meet the traitors.
Bailey Stewart is a convicted spy, not merely a political opponent.
Klaus, shall we go for a walk?
Oh, I'm sorry. I realize in certain circles it's considered impolite to discuss politics, and I've obviously interrupted a family discussion. I'll go upstairs.
Please, may I have the right to reply?
Klaus, what's the point?
As you're in England at the moment, yes, of course.
Please do not think me rude, but you seem to be living as a past. 20 years ago, we were at war, and you hated the German people. Why do you still hate them now?
Not the German people, the Nazi party.
But 90% of the people voted for the party and for the Fuhrer.
In a free election?
Certainly. And since he has come to power, the Fuhrer has done much that is good.
You mean all those roads?
I mean the work for the unemployed, I mean a stable currency, I mean restoring morale. And especially, I mean his aim to unite the German peoples of Europe into one Reich. But if you will allow, I must make my own
Klaus,
position clear.
please.
This is important, Vicky. You must know that my parents were in a camp for a time and are still under police surveillance. In fact, my family has an honorable record of resistance to the Fuhrer's excesses.
Excessive.
I do not approve of many things which are done in Germany now. I've said so here often.
But you still approve of Oswald Mosley?
Of his view of patriotism.
His view of patriotism leads to fascism, and fascism leads to war. And if you feel strongly about the excesses, might I ask what you're doing about them?
I'm no longer active as a Nazi.
I asked how you're opposing Hitler's abuse of power. What are you doing in England, anyway?
I have a job here. I work as a Reichsbank in London.
The Reichsbank, that bastion of Nazi finance capital.
I don't understand. What's wrong with working in a bank?
Oh, in Germany, it's fine when good Aryans own banks. But the 20% of banks owned by Jews have been taken over on the pretext that they are bastions of Jewish finance capital.
The Jewish problem is difficult.
There was no problem until Dr. Goebbels began to propagate it.
This is not quite true. The Jew understandably has loyalty to his brothers in other countries, but their financiers undermine the German economy.
Hitler's stormtroopers are beating up Jews and throwing them into concentration camps. Did you know that?
Yes.
Do you approve?
No.
Then do something about it.
You are, I think, a very fierce lady.
And you are a healthy young man, and serious things are happening in your country. Get off the fence, go home, and help to build a great resistance movement. Risk your life if necessary to put a stop to your Fuhrer's excesses. Oh, God. Liz, I am sorry, but you see...
I know.
Do not apologize. You speak with passion and concern. It seems to me that this is unusual in an Englishwoman. I admire this. But when I listen to you, I wonder if you're not of the left, perhaps even a communist.
No, not a communist. And in a sense, not an Englishwoman.
I would never have guessed, Dr. Martin,
Granny, you've met Sarah then?
when she arrived. But I'm still a little puzzled as to how to address you. Now, a physician is a doctor. A surgeon is Mr. But what is a surgeon who is also a woman?
It's a nice point, Lady Bourne. A surgeon nowadays is addressed as Mr., but this is a corruption of the original master, Doctor of Medicine, Master of Surgery.
Well, in that case, it sounds as if you ought to be addressed as Mistress Martin.
I hardly think so in the 20th century.
No, it's liable to put you in the category of Mistress Page or Mistress Quickly.
In that case, I'll be happy with Doctor or Miss.
Well, I think doctor would be the most suitable. After all, Liz is a doctor, and you are her, what shall I say, boss? Is that right?
Well, not quite. Liz is a house surgeon.
Yes, the lowest form of animal life.
Too true, I'm afraid, and I'm the next lowest, a registrar. But we still serve our master, the consultant, in this case, a Mr. Beardmore.
Commonly known in the hospital as Butcher Beardmore.
Oh,
This is a joke, I suppose.
oh, for heaven's sake, Klaus. Of course it's a joke. At least I hope it is. I do remember reading those terrible stories of operations that went wrong in that novel by A.J. Cronin. Oh, but you've come here for a rest, not to listen to laymen discussing your profession in total ignorance.
We were discussing another matter altogether, Lady Bourne.
Would you call it discussing? And was it very polite, Klaus? No matter what's happening elsewhere, this has always been a peaceful and harmonious household.
I'm sorry it was my fault. I got carried away.
Oh, please think no more of it. I was so sorry to hear you'd had trouble with your motor.
Oh, only a puncture, but it took me ages to change wheels. You'd think for a surgeon it would be child's play, but I'm hopeless. I always get the nuts cross-threaded and myself covered with grease.
Oh, perhaps your profession has nothing to do with it, but perhaps your sex has.
But Granny, why should it?
Well, I don't know why it should, but it has. And you know what I would have done in your place?
No.
I would have sat on the running board looking pathetic until some man came along and rescued me. And I wouldn't have had long, I assure you. There's nothing men enjoy more than playing knight errant.
Oh, hello, Liz. Oh, Klaus. Feeling better?
My wound is still painful.
Oh, no, I'll keep a stiff upper lip.
It's not my lip which was hurt.
Daddy, this is Dr. Sarah Martin.
Oh, how do you do, Dr. Martin? I understand you were on this demonstration with Liz.
Yes?
Arthur, dear, must we go into all that again? We were having such an interesting talk about nuts and grease and knight-errants. Or should it be knights-errant?
I'm sorry, Mother, but this is very important. Now, all of you, except for Dr. Martin, know Angela. Angela Scott, from Modern Life.
Hello.
Now, Angela's down here mixing business with pleasure. And the pleasure needs no elaboration. The delights of Larkfield and all who sail in her.
Here, here.
But the business side does need some elaboration. Now, on Saturday afternoon, Liz, she claims, was brutally assaulted by the police. By the way, how much did they fine you?
A £5.
But don't ask me for it. And on Saturday evening, Klaus went to the aid of a policeman who was being attacked by a left-wing mob.
He claims.
Angela's assignment is to get the, what do they call it in films, the lowdown on Saturday's Whitehall demonstration. But in the interests of impartiality, I have suggested that after dinner there should be a two-handed interview. An idea which has been most graciously accepted.
Father, what's the point?
The point, my dear Vicky, is to try and convey to the great British public that extremism leads to violence and the breakdown of law and order, whether it's from the left or the right.
It was a peaceful and orderly demonstration until the police...
My wound, yes, it is a living example of Bolshevik brutality.
Now, Klaus, my dear boy, later.
I was there too, don't forget. I'll back Liz's version.
They booted me with their steel boots.
I know, darling. You were very brave.
Now, look, can we please...
It's two against one. This is not just.
The question to be asked is why the police always behave as though threats to law and order come only from the left and go out of their way to protect thugs like Mosley.
Perhaps neither of us should participate in the debate. We're not British.
What?
It's a British issue. Let only the British speak.
I didn't say I wasn't British.
I misunderstood.
Yes, I said I wasn't English, in a sense, meaning that I don't think of myself in that way. I belong to the people who are being systematically beaten up in your country. I'm Jewish, Herr von Heinig.
I've sat through some pretty edgy dinner parties in my time. Tonight, well, that takes the biscuit.
Well, it's so kind of you to ask Miss Scott and myself to dinner together.
Oh, now, Rosie. When I asked you, I had no idea Angela was coming. She just turned up out of the blue.
Sorry, couldn't resist.
Yes. Well, actually, I was referring to Klaus and Lizzie's friend. Positively glaring at one another. Mother did her best, of course. Bless her. But Angela was soaking it up. I could almost hear her forming pithy sentences in her mind for that wretched article.
You know what journalists are like. Opportunists.
Yes.
I rather like her.
Angela?
Dr. Martin. She doesn't mind speaking her mind.
Well, nothing against that.
Haven't you?
No. But I suspect that woman's filling Lizzie's head with all kinds of nonsense. She's, defiant.
Meaning she speaks her mind.
Oh, she's perfect liberty to complain about Hitler's treatment of the Jews. Don't we all? She's no right to come down here and hold forth about it. Did you notice what she was wearing tonight?
I noticed she hadn't changed.
Yeah, well, it was a sudden invitation from Liz. But she hadn't even put a comb through her hair.
Times are changing.
Oh, more's the pity. There's something about that woman that seems to put people on their guard. I sense an antagonism towards Klaus, of course, which is perfectly understandable, but also towards us.
Us?
Yes, the family.
She reads the New Statesman, you read the Spectator. You are a landowner and she is a worker with the hand and brain.
No. It's more than that. It's almost a... No, I don't know.
Well, come on, analyse it. Or draw upon your... What was it that the Times leader called it? Your unerring political intuition?
It's as if she blames us for what's happening to the Jews in Germany almost as much as she blames the Nazis.
Where was the meeting held?
In the East End. Is it Bethnal Green?
Yes. And were many police present?
Yes, I saw many police.
As many say as were in the crowd?
I think not.
What was the ratio?
Perhaps 1 police for 5 of the crowd.
And how did the violence start?
So Oswald was speaking, and a few people in the crowd started to shout. Then somebody threw a bottle, and it hit a steward, and his head was bleeding. Then the police took the man who threw the bottle, and then the fighting began.
So you blame the outbreak of violence on the anti-Mosleyite who threw the bottle?
This is how it began. If no bottle had been thrown and nobody shouted, there would have been no violence.
But in Whitehall there was no violence from the crowd?
None.
Nothing the crowd did could justify what you have described as an abnormally violent response from the police?
It was a peaceful and orderly protest march to Whitehall.
Starting on the embankment?
Contingents from the boroughs, trade unions, political parties and so on rallied on the embankment. 100,000 of us at least.
The police estimate was 50,000.
Playing it down, of course.
And you were there with what contingent?
The Birmingham Doctors' Left Book Club group. But what does that matter? The point is that when we got to Whitehall, the crowd was tightly packed, and the police simply rode into us, striking about with their batons.
Crowd dispersal, to use their euphemism.
Look, I'm trying to be impartial, but I was caught up in the demonstration, and I saw people trying to bring the police horses down.
But if you'd seen what the police were doing, that wouldn't have surprised you. You don't stand around doing nothing when somebody's trying to crack your skull open.
Excuse me, please, but I believe the crowd were going not only to Whitehall, but to Downing Street.
It's more or less the same thing.
But not quite. Is it possible for the state to allow 100,000 people into Downing Street, or even 50,000? Mr. Chamberlain cannot meet 50,000 people. And there's always a danger that the crowd will burst in upon number 10 and damage the property in his cabinets. One cannot allow 50,000 people into this small house. I do not understand why the leader of the British government lives in so small a house. In Germany, the Führer lives in the Reichschancellor. And why number 10? Why not number 1?
Klaus is right. Of course the crowd had to be stopped before it reached Downing Street.
Look, I'm not sure that you should be here at all, but since you are, you mustn't mind if you're quoted.
No, that's not fair. You're a guest. You're a friend of Daddy's.
This is grotesque.
I'm sorry, Dr. Martin.
For God's sake, get to the heart of the matter. Herr von Heinig goes to a Mosley meeting and he's actually surprised when someone throws a bottle.
Excuse me, but have you not in England the tradition of free speech?
Yes, do something. Stop them.
Yes, a much vaunted tradition. Always providing, of course, that the free speech has no chance of making any impact. The police will stand by at Speaker's corner and allow a crank to tear the monarchy to shreds because they know his words are having no real effect.
Your monarchy is a sacred institution, and yet it may be attacked.
Oh, you don't understand, do you? The police protect Mosley's freedom of speech. Do you know why?
Because of the principle.
No, Herr von Heinig. Because, like the crank at Speaker's corner, he is no threat. The extreme right isn't the threat, but a march on Downing Street, that is a threat.
From the left, yes?
Klaus, do you know who lives in the East End of London? Bethnal Green, Stepney.
The ordinary working people.
Yes. And Jews. In fact, half the Jewish population in Britain. And do you know what Mosley's black shirts do? They parade the streets, shouting, Yids, Yids, we've got to get rid of the Yids.
The Jews among us are a cancer and every foul disease. We will extirpate them from our public life.
You're surprised when somebody throws a bottle.
Freedom of speech or freedom to insult with impunity.
Stop it, all of you. Klaus, don't let them provoke you.
I think you attack me again.
Of course I'll attack you if you go to Mosley meetings.
What is the good of all these endless arguments?
I think I will go now.
Klaus! I'll go. I've caused enough trouble.
Sarah, you have a right to say what you believe.
Even if it upsets your family.
Yes, of course.
Forgive me, but I've said it first. I will go.
Everybody going? How odd. At this time of night.
Granny, do something. Stop them arguing.
Arguing? Well, I did stop them once before dinner, but I don't think I can bear the burden of this holiday at Larkfield.
Sorry, Granny, of course you can't.
I'm sorry, Lady Bourne, it was my fault. I came down here to get material for an article.
And have you been successful?
Not very.
I expect you want neatness, a beginning, a middle, and an end. If only life were as neat and tidy as those nice stories by that clever American, Mr. O. Henry.
If only people wouldn't even argue about politics.
Then there wouldn't be any politics.
Tant mieux. Poor Klaus. It must be very confusing for you. It's considered very bad form to discuss politics in an English home, whereas on the continent it's considered a sign of ignorance not to.
I have been accused of things I am not. I'm not a Nazi. I'm not a Jew baiter.
Klaus, you've been accused of sitting on the fence.
Good evening.
My dear boy, you can't go now. It's raining cats and dogs. He's picked up another quaint custom of English family life. People forever rushing upstairs and the sound of bedroom doors slamming.
Daddy, you must do something.
Do what?
They've been having the most ghastly row out there.
What, again?
Yes, again. Klaus has gone upstairs. I think he's packing.
Well, just because of an argument?
Oh, you know how proud he is. Why should he stand by and let Liz and that awful woman insult him? If he goes now, he may never come back.
Oh, nonsense, Vicky. He'll cool down.
I don't think so.
When a man gets the worst of two women, he usually gets a bit huffy.
No. Sorry, Rosie, I think you're being just a little bit glib.
You mean he won't come back? You agree?
I mean, my darling, there are some things we haven't discussed for some time. And I suppose I mean that whether you like our manners or not. Dr. Martin has talked about things that you and Klaus have to face. Have always had to face.
Daddy, don't.
Ah, it's no good burying your head in the sand. You heard what she said about the Jews in Germany.
No, it's exaggerated. There's nothing about it in the papers.
The papers, God protect me from the papers. Look, assuming it were true, how would you feel?
It's got nothing to do with Klaus. Nothing. Nothing is going to destroy our future. Now, please, please stop him from going.
Klaus, my dear boy. What's all this? Vicky tells me you're leaving.
Yes. I'm sorry, Commander, but I think it's the best thing to be done.
Well, just because of a tiff? It'll blow over.
You believe this? No. You're trying to be of help and very polite. But you know this does not blow over. I'm sad and frightened for me and Vicky. But whatever happens in the future, I cannot stay in the house with this Dr. Martin. All the time I'm aware of her deep hatred for me and the German people.
Oh, not you. Only some of the German people.
The situation between our countries does not improve. Until today, I've had no discussion with you about the Jews. We've talked of politics, yes, of German territorial claims, yes. I say I do not approve of many things that are done in the Reich. But I never said what things. And you did not ask. But Dr. Martin, she has asked. It has been said, and it must be faced. I have much thinking to do, and perhaps when I've thought, I will decide about a future for Vicky and me.
Yes, but you don't have to go. Stay here and talk about it. Stay here and think.
There's a hostile Jewess watching me.
Yes. That is rather unfortunate. Klaus, don't do anything hasty. Promise me you'll hang on for half an hour.
I was just saying what a change it makes, Arthur. Both the men upstairs having a nice gossip in the bedroom, and all the women downstairs drinking brandy.
You're very skittish tonight, Mother. Where's Angela?
She went off somewhere to talk to Dr. Martin, and Rosie, as she said, had had enough.
Can I have a word, Liz?
Yes.
In the study, I think. Won't be a minute. Oh, have some more brandy.
Whatever can have got into him? He's a very generous man, except when it comes to brandy. Just like his father, he always kept his in a tantalus.
How long have you known Dr. Martin?
A few months.
She's a woman of considerable intelligence and integrity, and I'm sure a very good friend of yours.
But
Well, I'm sorry, Liz, but she can't stay here. Tomorrow she
because
must...
of our politics.
No, it's not that. We've entertained people of all manner of political views here at Larkfield over the years. You know that. I do remember when we had Willie Gallagher to lunch and how we all laughed. And Gallagher's the only communist MP in the House.
Yes, I remember. But he is a member of your Westminster Club. He's stuck to the unspoken code of conduct. Never raise your voice. And never say anything as if you really believed it.
Liz, you have your loyalty to your friend. I understand that. But you also have a loyalty to the family. Now, if Dr. Martin stays, Klaus will go. The boy's in a state. And if he goes, I think he might well break off his engagement to Vicky.
If he can't stomach the truth, it's just as well for Vicky.
Well, that's for them to decide. Heaven knows what's going to happen in the next few months. Maybe a break is inevitable. But if it comes, I don't want Vicky to think it was her own sister who caused it. That Dr. Martin drove a wedge between Klaus and herself.
Oh, Father, there are family loyalties. But aren't there others which are more important? I've never heard you discuss what's happening to the German Jews. An internal problem. Well, is it not our concern? I've not heard one prominent member of your party speak out on the subject.
We have in this country, at this moment, 50,000 refugees from Germany.
The ones with the money, the famous, the Freuds, the doctors, artists, scientists. But how many have been turned away? Now you're asking me to send Sarah away. Oh, do we really care? Think about it, Father.
If Klaus breaks with Vicky, on your head be it. Now you think about that.
All right. Sarah.
It's all right, Liz, darling, really. It's for the best.
Sarah, please. I don't want you to go.
I know. But I've caused too much trouble. Why stay and cause more? It would be arrogant to think I'm going to make any converts.
Yes, but we've driven you away.
Not you, Liz. Not you, Liz.
It's the family.
I know. I'm driving myself away in my little bull-nosed Morris. And if I get another puncture, I'll be done for because I didn't get the first one mended. And, I'll see you at the hospital on Thursday, Do explain to the family and tell them I apologised for my bad manners.
Apologise? Don't worry, she's gone.
I'm sorry, Liz. It can't have been easy.
She made it very easy. Oh, it was too easy.
Angela.
I've just passed Klaus's room. He and Vicky are having a little cuddle. Isn't that nice? Has Dr. Martin gone?
Yes.
Yes. I've had quite a chat with her. I'm sorry, Arthur.
Sorry, why?
Because she's a very articulate young woman with quite an amazing memory. And there's no doubt in my mind that the police behaved appallingly in Saturday's demonstration.
Nonsense! The whole point of our interview was to give a balanced judgment. Extreme left, extreme right, they're both to blame. You and I and the police are in the middle, trying to preserve our civilization.
Arthur, I'm sorry, that's too glib. My piece won't come out like that.
Why not?
Because I don't believe it to be true. Because I have to write what I've seen and heard.
What you've heard? From that woman? Hearsay? A biased witness?
Oh, Arthur, please, aren't you biased?
Certainly not. Well, aren't you?
I hope not.
You are biased. By your own prejudices and by the demands of your profession. The search for the sensational.
Arthur, you're wrong. Look, we may all have our prejudices, but we all have our loyalties too. And in this instance, mine happens to be to my profession, to honest journalism. I'm afraid I shall have to publish. And perhaps be damned.
Good of you to spare me the time. Oh. I suppose her ladyship is out doing last-minute shopping for the wedding?
Mother? Oh, she's not staying here.
Oh. Phil told me she suddenly went off to London 2 days ago and wouldn't say why.
Oh. My dear Mamma is getting secretive in her old age. No, I expect she went to Brown's, as usual.
Yes.
She hasn't been here since I once was entertaining Angela Scott and she turned up unexpectedly. It's rather an embarrassing encounter.
I can imagine.
Anyway, I don't suppose you came here to discuss your mother-in-law's vagaries.
You're right, I didn't. I want to know if you agree with me that it looks now as if war is not only probable, but certain.
Yes, I'm afraid it is. But it needn't affect you and Phyllis yet. Still, I don't suppose you want the boy in London. You'd better send the nursery contingent down to Larkfield.
That's very good of you, Arthur, thank you. But you're wrong in saying it needn't concern me.
No, how's that?
Well, I know most of the family think I'm a bit of a playboy, as the Yanks say. I've never taken much part in all this war talk or saving your presence in politics. But suddenly it's all changed. Everybody one talks to, from the paper man on the corner to Geoffrey Cartland's chief accountant, all seem to agree that war is inevitable. And if that's the case, I want to go for a commission in the RAF.
Oh, God.
It's not so surprising, is it?
I'm not surprised. What about pool aviation? Geoffrey Cartland won't be very pleased if you walk out on the firm.
I don't give a damn what Geoffrey Cartland thinks. I want to go for a commission and get some quick training in fighters. But I gather, for some amazing reason, that it's rather difficult to get accepted.
You've got a family now, Jack.
And I want to do something about protecting them.
Well, I suppose I could give you a letter for a director of personnel at the Air Ministry.
Could you, Arthur? That would be splendid.
Oh.
Thank you.
Oh, excuse me.
Oh, Arthur, not a word to Phyllis, please.
As you wish. Liz, what are you doing here? I thought you were going straight to Larkfield from the hospital.
Jack, hello.
Hello.
Yes, I was, only Granny rang up last week and insisted that I have a fitting for my bridesmaid dress. Oh, it's all too bogus. Anyway, here it is, the silly thing. Oh, Jack, what are you doing here?
I'm just leaving, actually. I came to ask my brother-in-law's advice.
Well, when are we seeing you at Larkfield?
The day before the wedding. Tomorrow, in fact.
What a fuss it all is. Oh, how's my godson?
He's flourishing. He's a really remarkable child. He even smiled at me last week.
2 months, wind, I should think.
Don't bother, Senior. Oh, by the way, you won't forget about that letter, will you?
All right. If you're convinced that's what you want.
Yes, I am. Thanks. Bye, Liz. Thanks for the drink.
Liz, my poor child, you're looking thoroughly washed out.
Well, it's been a bad week. You know, the feeling of suspense at the hospital is quite appalling. We've been told to postpone any non-essential operations and to take in nothing but emergency cases.
Keeping the beds empty for air raid casualties.
Yes. Oh, it's all pretty horrid. I don't know which is worse, the thought of the bombing or the gas. Poor Laura, what a week for her wedding. Still, I suppose it'll all feel quite different at Larkfield. It usually does.
Yes, except when you bring down one of your radical friends. Sorry, Liz. Look, why don't we have an early lunch before we catch the train?
If I catch it?
What on earth do you mean?
In view of the way I blotted my copybook over that demonstration, I...
Nonsense, Liz. We had all that out the last time we met.
Yes, but if some people have cancelled...
Liz, darling, if a few pompous fools decide not to come, I don't give a rap. I do want both my daughters there, and looking their best, what's more.
Oh, thank you, Daddy.
I think it's probably just as well that Klaus couldn't come after last week. It's a bit hard on Vicky, though.
Yes. By the way, I rang up Angela. I thought I'd have a go at persuading her to withdraw that article.
Well, any luck?
No, none at all. She looks so pretty and vulnerable, but underneath she's horribly tough.
That's exactly what you said to me the first time we met. Oh, well. Oh, well, don't worry about it anymore. Look, we must go. I've got to meet Walter Henderson at Larkfield at 7.
The bank manager?
Yes, I'm arranging another overdraft on the estate account. Here, can you guess why?
Well, the cottages, electricity and inside lavs. Oh, my darling father, you're an angel.
Oh, blast.
Sit down, Laura, dear. Is everything going smoothly?
Yes, thank you.
Rosie's such a good organizer.
Yes, very.
When you get to my age, there's nothing much you can do that somebody else couldn't do better.
Oh, that's not true.
But I'm anxious to make my own contribution.
But, Lady Bourne, there's no need.
Now, I've given it some thought. And it occurs to me that you'll want something old to wear on the day. Now, this may look rather old-fashioned for your taste, but I want you to have it as a wedding present.
Oh, it's lovely. But it's much too big a present. I couldn't possibly have it.
Oh, nonsense, Laura. Since you came here, you've been another granddaughter to me. I don't mean you've been a replacement for Anne, of course.
Of course not.
But we love you for yourself. And you've been a great consolation to us all, not just Vicky. And I want to give you that, and to make your wedding the family event that it is. Now, you wouldn't deny me that, would you?
No, Lady Bourne. It's very beautiful, and I'm very grateful.
Laura,
Yes?
I was thinking it would be very nice if you took to calling me Granny. You are like a granddaughter to me now.
Thank you, Granny.
Another present, Mrs. Pooh.
Oh, good Lord. Well, you better put it in the study, Mrs. Gates.
Very well. And still we come, Miss Laura.
Oh, thank you, Mrs. Gates.
I bet it's another copy set.
Never mind, we can change it if it is. Oh, dear, look at this room. The poor commander. Hasn't he got somebody coming to see him?
Yes, Walter Henderson. He's a nice old thing.
Oh, it's not so awfully old, really.
I think he's something important at the bank. I suppose my poor father is feeling badly off as usual.
All the same, this room looks like the parcels office at Paddington. Don't you think we'd better move them out?
No, Rosie told us to use it as a storeroom. She's coming over later to arrange the presents, which she'll do beautifully.
Oh, well, it's her wedding.
Her wedding? What are you talking about?
I meant she's arranged it all. And so well. She's a very competent lady, as my future mother-in-law. All the same, I think we ought to move this junk out of here.
Laura Collins, may you be forgiven. All these lovely presents and you call them junk. Anyhow, it's too late now. Daddy's back.
Oh, I only hope he won't be too furious.
He's never furious with you. After all, why should he be? You're making what Granny calls a very suitable marriage, unlike me.
Good God, what on
I'm
earth?
terribly sorry. It was Rosie's idea.
Huh?
She's coming over tomorrow, bringing Parsons to arrange the presents in the drawing room. It's practically full. This is the overflow.
People are so generous.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, Vicky, do let's move these out of here.
I had no idea you've got somebody coming to see you.
Don't worry, Laura. Walter Henderson will understand he's got daughters of his own, 5 no less. And they get married with deadly regularity every other year. Oh, Mrs. Gates, everything in order?
Yes. Thank you. When's Liz arriving, Daddy?
She came down with me. She's gone to her bedroom.
Oh, I must go up and see her and thank her for her present.
Liz is forgiven, isn't she?
No.
Oh, I felt awful about her getting arrested like that. And that beastly Bobby telling lies. After all, she'd only been saying what you'd been saying for months and months. Chamberlain must go.
Yes. Now he's going. Tomorrow morning to Berchtesgaden.
What?
Yes. He sent a message to Hitler, and the Fuhrer actually agreed. Do you know he's nearly 70 and has never flown before? It's quite a brave thing to do.
Rather. When did this happen? There was nothing about it in the papers.
Well, the Admiralty telephoned me just before Liz and I left.
Wouldn't it be marvellous if they could really come to some agreement?
Well, it depends on what agreement they come to. I can't see the Fuhrer climbing down at this stage. Don't raise your hopes too high, Vicky.
But think what it would mean.
To you and Klaus, yes, indeed. And to everybody else in this tight little island.
Mr. Henderson, sir.
Oh, Walter.
Arthur.
I'm sorry about this. I've only just arrived to find my study being used as a storeroom. It's a family wedding. Oh, but of course, you and your wife will be coming, won't you?
We certainly will. Hello, Victoria.
Hello.
I suppose you're going to be a bridesmaid.
Yes, and Liz. Just the family.
Very nice, too.
Oh, well, excuse me, Mr. Henderson. Goodbye. See you at the wedding.
Charming girl.
Yes, a pretty creature. Well, do sit yourself down. That chair seems to be free.
Almost.
Oh. Yes, I'm sorry I couldn't get down any earlier. You heard the news, I suppose?
About the Prime Minister. Dare one hope?
No, it depends on what one hopes for. Anyway, I didn't bring you here to discuss international politics. Something far less important.
But not entirely unimportant to you, the matter of a further overdraft.
Hello, Liz.
Hello, Vic. We're just having a dress rehearsal.
Oh, isn't it lovely?
Dreamy. Do you know, I really believe you're quite enjoying all this.
I am.
Wouldn't you, Liz? You know I wouldn't, stupid.
Oh, Lord. Tactless again.
Guess what Geoffrey's given me?
A diamond necklace.
A rope of pearls.
A mink coat.
No.
Which, if this damn war comes, will be remarkably useless.
It's less useless than jewels. You could sleep in it in the cellars when the air raids start. Very warm, Mink.
Too true.
By the way, how is Geoffrey?
Well, as far as I can make out, he's a reformed character, or at least he's making every effort to be.
About time, too. And incidentally, I have a rather less show-off present for you here from Nanny, with a letter.
Have you seen her?
Yes.
Oh, poor old darling. How is she?
Well, she's much calmer and more relaxed. She's longing to be here for your wedding, of course, but realizes it's better not to. There's too much excitement for her.
What is it?
The poems of Robert Burns, in a beautiful binding.
Oh, look, there's one of Nanny's favourites.
And I always thought Nanny didn't really like me. Oh, how I wish she was going to be here now. It won't be the same without her.
So, under the circumstances, head office have come back with a categorical no. In fact, they would like to have your proposals for reducing the present overdraft.
Damnation. I know it's not your decision, Walter, but you must admit for me it's damnable.
I hate to have to say this, Arthur, but I must, in all honesty, admit that had the decision been mine, I should have had to give you the same answer. As I was saying, for the past 25 years, the estate's been growing smaller, and the various overdrafts have been growing larger. It's now reached the stage when the value of the estate is barely enough to cover the overdrafts. You've got the figures there in front of you. Now, quite apart from anything else, it's costing you so much in interest.
Yes, I suppose I should have gone back to the bar after the war, instead of staying on in the service. I might have made quite a good income as a barrister.
Solicitor in Hereford, practicing from home. I don't suppose there's much over from your salary as an MP.
Oh, no, nothing at all. By the time I paid for my flat in London, entertaining, eating out and so on, and my private income stretched to the limit. Yes. Suppose I've been a fool.
No, not you, Arthur, but your dear old father did leave quite a load of debt. Did Lady Bourne ever know about this?
No. We tried to keep it from her. But it was she who persuaded Helen and me to come back here after my dear old father died.
How fortunate that Lady Bourne had money left her by her aunt, wasn't it? At least you need never worry about her.
No. And I believe when she left the flat in London, she bought herself an annuity.
You didn't arrange it for her, then?
Oh, no. No, she's a very independent lady, my mother. Yes, she's got her own solicitor and her own man of business. But as you say, she'll be all right.
There is that delightful home for elderly people near Morven. It's not cheap, but it's beautifully run, very agreeable.
You're telling me that the only answer is to sell Larkfield?
I'm afraid so. You could let it, of course, but you wouldn't get a very good rent for it.
Why not?
Totally unmodernized, isn't that right?
No, it's perfectly right. No central heating, no wash basins in the bedrooms. And as for the kitchens, Mrs. Gates has been on to me for years to try and buy her an Aga cooker. Yes, I've been trying to economize, and now it boomerangs on me.
I can appreciate how you must feel.
Not a word about this to anyone, though, Walter, till I've decided what to do.
No, not a word. For my own part, I will have another talk to head office, but I'm not very hopeful.
Walter, I found this the other day. I thought it might interest you.
Us?
Yes, look, there and there in the back row.
When?
Oh, it's on the back.
August 1901, Gardens at Larkfield. Winchley Boys 11 versus Albury. Won by 3 wickets. Yes, well, I will do what I can, Arthur. I'll ring you again tomorrow. Would you be able to look in and see me in the late afternoon?
Yes, of course.
Believe me, I'm more sorry than I can say about all this, Arthur, particularly coming at a time like the present.
Yes.
What's all the merriment about?
Just look what the Hereford Delamares have given Laura.
Oh, charming. I wonder if I could have a word with you, Phyllis.
I'm sorry, Mother, not now.
But it's rather important.
It'll have to wait. There's so much to do. Hello, everyone. Hello, Rosie, my darling.
Hello, good morning.
Not more.
Yes, all these presents have arrived since yesterday afternoon.
Rosie, do you want some coffee?
Coffee? Oh, darling, I don't think I've got time for coffee. I've got the flowers to do, and I've got to arrange the presents in the drawing room. Bless you.
If you'll excuse me for a moment, madam, I would just like to look in on the gate.
Well, yes, of course, Blossom. Now, darling,
Phyllis, I must have a word.
Not now, Mother. I told you, we're busy.
But I've got something important I want to tell you.
The wedding cake's arrived, Mrs. Cartland. We're just taking it through to the dining room.
Then, Mrs. Gates. Come on, let's go look.
Shall we have a look? Yes, good idea.
Good morning. Good morning.
Aren't you coming too, Mother?
No, I only came down for my book. I'll have a look later. Oh, you might ask Vicky to come up and see me, if she can spare the time.
Very well.
Vicky, you know that I've inherited and been given quite a lot of jewellery in my time.
Yes, Granny, you've shown it to us often before.
Well, now I want each of you to choose something you'd particularly like to have.
But these are your best things. I thought you kept them at the bank.
Well, I did, darling, but I got them out when I was up in London. Now, go on, choose.
No, thank you, Granny. I don't really want anything. Couldn't this wait till another time? I should be downstairs helping.
Oh, Vicky, it's much better to do things when you think of them, because you never know when you may leave them until too late.
Vicky, you're wanted.
Sorry, Granny, must run.
Well, come back later, won't you, darling? And you might tell Liz I'd like to see her now.
Right.
White carnation.
Granny wants to see you.
Now?
Yes. She's being very peculiar. Can I help?
Oh, yes, please, darling. How do you think it looks?
It's lovely.
Yes, Granny, what can I do for you?
Come in, Liz. Now, these are my best bits of jewellery. I want you to pick something that you like for yourself.
No, thank you, Granny. I don't want any of your jewellery.
Why not? Some of it'll come to you one day. Why not now?
In my opinion, there is far too much preoccupation with possessions and money in this family.
Noble sentiments, Liz. But I think you'd find you'd change your mind if you were suddenly without any.
But that's exactly the point, Granny. There are too many people in this world without any. If you really want to do something with your jewels, you could sell them and help Daddy improve things for the tenants. God knows they need help far more than I need jewels.
Elizabeth, how can you be so insensitive? How dare you suggest I should sell these things? They're heirlooms to be kept in the family. I know you have some very odd ideas, but I must say I'm shocked at this.
I'm sorry, Granny, I didn't mean to upset you.
You mean to upset me? Did you think I would be pleased?
No, it was tactless of me, I'm sorry.
Tactless? Thoroughly ungrateful, I should say. You don't know how lucky you are to have a good home and a family who love you.
But I do, Granny, that's the point.
I don't understand. No, I simply don't understand.
I think I'd better go and help them downstairs.
Perhaps you should.
Oh, Paddy, have you got those accounts out for me yet? Oh, good. I've got to go into Horbury, so I'll call for them later on if you have them ready. About 4 o'clock. Right, thank you very much.
Oh, waiting for the news.
Yes.
Do you know, today I seem to have forgotten all about the crisis. It's quite extraordinary. Very relaxing, I recommend it.
Well, we must arrange to have some more family weddings.
Yes, we must. Now, look, what I really came to say was, you haven't forgotten that Peter and I are giving an eve of wedding party tonight.
Indeed, I have not.
About 6.
Yeah, well, I may be a little late. I've got to go into Horbury and may take some time.
Your tiresome constituents, I suppose.
Yeah, something of the kind.
Well, don't let them keep you too long. You must be there to drink Laura's health. Now, I must go and finish the flowers, and I've got some chores to do for Peter this afternoon. Have a look at the flowers before you go. Larkfield's looking quite at its best. What a dear house it is.
Hello, Mother. Here I am at last. Good of you to spare the time.
We've just taken a break. I must say you're well out of it. It's absolute chaos down there. It doesn't look as if they'll be ready by next week, let alone tomorrow. And now Laura and Peter have gone off riding, if you please. Now you're well out of it. It's much more peaceful here.
And infinitely more deadly. This may come as a surprise to you, Phyllis, but even at my advanced age, uninterrupted solitude can be extremely boring.
Oh, Mother, don't exaggerate.
I'm not exaggerating. Even the Times is boring. I've read through the deaths and there's not a single person I know.
Oh, come off it, Ma. Mrs. Gates will be up with your tray soon. I can't stay much longer, though.
There you are. You see, you're always saying how much there is to do, but I am supposed to keep quiet and keep out of the way.
I do believe you're jealous.
Jealous? What of, pray?
That you're not arranging this wedding yourself.
Oh.
No, I don't see why you should be. You didn't even come to mine.
Well, it wasn't my fault if you chose to get married when I was miles from anywhere. When you're on a cruise, you can't just suddenly get off, you know. Or perhaps I should have asked them to put me off in one of the lifeboats and paddle myself home.
Well, we decided very suddenly, and then Jack couldn't be persuaded to wait. You know what he's like when he gets something in his head. Anyway, I didn't think you minded.
I didn't mind, Phyllis. And I don't in the least mind Rosie Cartland being in charge of the wedding.
Well, that's all right then.
Now, Phyllis.
I really must go.
But, Phyllis,
No, I'm sorry. You have your lunch and a little snooze, and I'll see you later.
I don't want a little snooze.
Mr. and Mrs. Poole, Dr. Bourne and Miss Bourne.
Hello, Geoffrey.
Why, hello, Geoffrey.
Hello.
Peter, feeling nervous?
Just a little bit.
Very well, thank you.
Hello, Laura.
Hello, Peter.
Where's Lady Bourne? Oh,
She's upstairs with Rosie, seeing what she's going to wear tomorrow. Actually, I think Mother's feeling a little out at this wedding, so if you could butter her up.
Ah, Alec! Come and meet Laura's adopted family. This is Phyllis and Jack Poole.
Hello, how do you do?
Liz and Vicky Bourne.
Hello.
Alec Forbes, my best man.
Forbes. Now, don't tell me that you're related to...
To Lord Evelyn, my great-uncle.
Granny's older glass.
Yes, I've been particularly instructed to give his love to Lady Bourne. Is she here?
She is indeed. Alice, this is Alec Forbes, Peter's best man.
Oh, how nice. How do you do?
Best man, Mother.
How nice.
And I have a message for you from Lord Evelyn.
Evelyn, are you a Forbes? Yes. Oh, how is your dear uncle? I haven't seen him for weeks.
Well, he was in Baden-Baden for his health funeral, but well, now he's in Rome.
I had hoped he'd be here in time for the wedding.
Yes, he's terribly disappointed, but he had to go to a reception at the embassy tonight. But he'll be back next week and will telephone you at once, and he's sending you some flowers for you to wear tomorrow.
Oh, very kind.
And I've been charged with delivering this to you.
Thank you.
Why do you suppose your mother is pretending to be deaf?
Don't ask me.
Champagne, Alice.
Thank you, Don. Was Alec at Eton with Peter?
Yes. And private school, too.
How kind of Lord Evelyn.
Well, what is it? An Egyptian goddess.
Oh, which one?
A goddess of fertility.
Oh, you'll need one of those, Laura.
You're in the Auxiliary Air Force as well, aren't you?
Yes, 601 City of London Squadron.
Does Evelyn think Italy will support us, Alec?
He hasn't made any pronouncement on that yet.
He hasn't what?
He hasn't said, Lady Bourne.
Oh, do you mind just talking straight to me? I find it so difficult to understand what people say unless they're talking directly to me.
Mother, can you hear what I'm saying now?
No, I can't.
Now, no heel taps, as Arthur would say. Well, where is Arthur, by the way? Surely Westminster haven't claimed him today.
No, he had an engagement in Holbury. He said he might be a little late.
How do you know?
Because he told me and asked me to give his apologies to Rosie. Your brother doesn't think I'm half-witted, even if everybody else does.
Ah, well, I think that's everything now till tomorrow morning.
What time do the caterers men arrive tomorrow?
Oh, 8 o'clock sharp. Oh, thank heaven they're all dining out tonight. I've only got a ladyship's train, that won't take me a minute. Oh, just look at them flowers, Fred. Don't they look a fair treat? What time are you fetching a ladyship?
About 7.
Such a nice party, Rosie. Thank you.
Bless you. Now, you're going to have a very long and busy day tomorrow, so have a good night's rest.
Oh, I
you?
will. Good night, all you young things. Have a nice dinner.
Good night,
Good night, Lady
Granny.
Bourne.
Good night, Granny.
Darling.
May I see you to your car, Lady Bourne?
Oh, such lovely manners, just like your dear uncle.
Now, Liz, are you going to drive with me? And you, Vicky. Not forgetting the handsome best man, of course. And leave the 2 Yardbirds girl alone.
See you later.
Oh, are you ready, Rosie?
Oh, she's waiting for the commander.
Oh, yes, she would be. I bet you anything you like he doesn't turn up.
Bye.
Good night, Rosie.
Bye.
I thought Miss Laura looked very well, madam.
Yes, she did, didn't she?
She'll make a beautiful bride.
All brides are beautiful, Pass.
Yes, of course, madam. What time would you like dinner?
Not dinner. Something light on a tray, I think. A poached egg.
Or a souffle?
Very well. But not yet. I'm expecting the commander to arrive. He's been delayed.
I think I hear the door now, madam, if you'll excuse me. Commander Bourne, madam.
Rosie, my dear. Sorry I'm late.
It's all right.
Are they all gone?
Yes, to the Queen's. Peter booked a table this morning.
Oh, well, you should have gone too.
Well, I knew you'd turn up. It's all right, Parsons. We can help ourselves to drinks.
Thank you, madam.
We have been drinking bubbly, but I don't suppose you...
No, not for me, thank you. What I really would like would be some brandy.
Right, sit down.
I've had a bit of a shock.
Mr. Henderson?
Is there anything you don't know?
Peter and Laura wanted to go riding, so I offered to go and get their honeymoon francs from the bank. I saw them there.
He didn't say anything?
Oh, he said nothing. Except that you were going to see him. Oh, what's wrong, Arthur?
I haven't said a word, Rosie, but when this wedding is over, I shall have to tell the girls and my mother and the Gates. Oh, what a time for it to happen.
You're talking in riddles, darling, but what to happen?
Henderson and I have decided the only thing to do is to sell Larkfield.
No.
Yes, just when it's most needed as a safe haven for the family.
Oh, I can't imagine Larkfield without the Bournes. Oh, this is dreadful. Arthur, what about the Gainsborough? It's a marvellous painting. Now, if you sold that, surely...
Yes, it's a good idea, Rosie, but my dear father was ahead of you in 1913.
You mean that painting in the drawing room is a fake?
Yes, indeed.
Well, something's got to be done. Why don't you ask Geoffrey? I'm sure he'd help.
Geoffrey's a very generous man, but I'm afraid I'm very poor security at the moment. And in any case, as you very well know, my dear, I don't want to involve him.
No, of course not. Oh, Arthur, I can imagine how you're feeling.
Excuse me, madam. Miss Scott is on the telephone for the commander.
Do you want to speak to her, Arthur?
No, thank you, Parsons. Would you tell Miss Scott that I'm busy with...
With wedding preparations?
Exactly, Parsons. And tell Miss Scott that I'll telephone her when I'm in London sometime.
Certainly, sir.
What a splendid fellow he is. Well, shall we join the young at the Queen's? Or shall we have dinner alone together, as we planned many months ago? I'd like to explain it to you. And many other things as well.
Then let's go. I'm dining with the commander, so please don't wait up for me, Parsons. You have a very long and busy day ahead of you.
Thank you, madam.
Parsons?
Good night, sir. Layford Park? Miss Scott, yes, we were cut off. No, I'm sorry. The commander has just taken Mrs. Cartland out to dinner.
Sharpen the knife to the cake.
How does it feel to be married for the second time?
Well, it's strange, but somehow I feel really married to you now. There's something to be said for a church wedding. Can I just get my...
Fine.
I'll open the door, Mrs. Gates.
Oh, if you don't mind, Mr. Parsons, I would like to be the first one to greet them. Welcome home, Mr. and Mrs. Peter Cartland, and we hope you'll both be very, very happy.
Thank you, Mrs. Gates.
Mr. Peter.
Thank you, Parsons.
I have some champagne for you if you'd care for one.
Or a cup of tea for Miss Laura. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean Mrs. Cartland. Can I take you a bouquet?
Oh, yes, thank you.
I think I prefer champagne, Parsons.
Splendid.
The same for me, please, Parsons. Oh, lovely. Thank you.
Thank you, Parsons. What time are the hordes expected?
Oh, not for another 10 minutes, except for the family, of course.
Cheers. I suppose you know you look absolutely gorgeous.
Do I?
Yes.
Are you hating all this very much, darling?
Oddly enough, not. And you?
No. I'm loving every minute of it.
Darling, what
thank you,
a
Barbara.
beautiful service. I love that hymn you chose.
Yes, but the choir could hardly cope.
I know. Oh, darling, your dress is wonderful. Oh, Pete.
Rosie.
I haven't really thanked you.
Now, what for?
Everything. For giving me such a lovely wedding, of course. But mostly for the last 2 years. I've been so happy with you all. Larkfield is my home, and always will be.
Now, Laura, darling, you and Peter must go out and get some photographs taken. Go through the drawing room. I'll send the family out as they come.
Okay.
Ask them not to be too long. We can't keep the guests waiting.
Okay.
Fine.
Thanks, Laura.
Now all look this way, please. Thank you. Now, just one more.
He seems much more organised than you, darling, though not as handsome.
Oh, I don't know about that. Anyway, Cine's far more difficult to cope with than those stills cameras, you know.
There's going to be one more photograph.
Excuse me, madam. I really think we shouldn't leave the guests waiting in the hall much longer.
All right, Parsons, we've nearly finished.
Thank you, madam.
Now, one last smile. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Go on then, Mother. Having a little refreshment wouldn't be a bad idea.
Not yet. Not yet. I love it.
I'm going to break my ankle again.
Ah, yes, I know, Peter. That was very well, my darling. Looking forward.
Steady, Arthur. There he is. Get over. Right. Slowly now. Good. Now walk across that way, please. Phil, come round this way, will you? Great. Yes, it's all right. Ah! Damn! My son!
Arthur Bourne? Oh, Minister. I'm afraid you've caught me a bit on the hop in the middle of a family wedding. Hmm? Oh, that isn't good. Well, we can only hope that the Prime Minister doesn't give way to the nasty little corporal. Oh, thank you, Minister. Yes, I'll ring you after 6. Bye.
Champagne. Oh, thank you, Mrs. Gates. They've gone up to change.
Oh, good, good. Well, Rosie, my dear, this has been a very well-organised affair. How can I thank you?
Bless you, Arthur. Do you know, there's just one thing. Why didn't you ask Angela Scott to the wedding?
Well, because she isn't one of the family, and because the girls don't like her very much. Does that satisfy you?
Yes, I think it does.
Thanks, Mrs. Gates.
That's all right, Mrs. Cartland.
Oh, please not. I'm sure it'll be years before I stop thinking that's Rosie.
Get used to it sooner than you think, Laura.
Well, if it just set Rosie and Daddy together, I'm sure it'd be so much easier for you, Laura.
Oh, Vicky! Well, if there's nothing else I can do for you, I think I ought to be getting downstairs.
Oh, it's quite all right, Mrs. Gates. I think 3 able-bodied people are quite enough to look after me.
Very well, Mrs. Cartland.
Thanks, Vic.
Oh, shall I take the mink coat? I think Mr. Cartland would like it.
Oh, yes, all right.
Oh, I'm sorry, Daddy.
How are you getting on?
All right.
Peter's ready. Oh, darling, you must be quick.
We won't be long.
Come on, Phil. Let's go downstairs.
Oh, good idea. Now, don't you two chatter too long.
We won't. I'll have it down in a minute.
You will be in charge.
Right.
Darling Laura, be happy. Peter's a very lucky boy.
I say, that brooch Granny gave you looks dreamy.
Oh, it is lovely, isn't it? I told her it was much too grand a present, but she wouldn't have it.
Oh, nonsense. You should have a nice present. It is strange, though, Granny giving away all her best bits of jewellery to all of us. Hope she isn't really going gaga.
There. How do I look?
Gorgeous. Oh, Laura, I hope everything goes all right for you tonight.
Everything?
You know.
Oh, that. Oh, it will. It's actually quite marvellous. What? Oh, don't look so shocked, Vicky. Peter and I have been secretly married for over 2 months.
You have?
We have. We only went through this today so we wouldn't disappoint Rosie.
You never told me.
But nobody knows, except your father and Peter's. And you must promise never to breathe a word to a soul.
Promise. You crafty old thing. I'm sure I'd never have the courage to do anything like that.
Now, don't go getting any ideas, Vic. It would never work for you and Klaus.
No, it wouldn't, would it? Or would it? I must go and tell the others you're ready, or Rosie will be on the warpath.
Okay, I'll follow.
We're making this
I hope they have more time together than some of my friends did in 1914. Come on, Rosie, dear. Mustn't forget our guests.
Well, back to our nid d'amour. Thank goodness it's all over.
Yes, darling. Well, but Granny enjoyed it, and so did the guests.
Did you see Alec with Vicky?
Vicky? You mean Liz?
No, I don't. Old Alec likes living dangerously.
Am I disturbing you?
Never.
I brought Parsons and a couple of servants to help clear up. And I must get back to my WVS ladies and the gas masks. I had no right taking 2 days off for the charade.
Charade? You mean you knew?
Knew? Well, of course I knew. With you and Geoffrey steaming off the Riviera that time, and Laura, who was meant to be holidaying in Yorkshire, came back as brown as a berry. Except for one small white band on her wedding finger. It wasn't very difficult.
And we thought we'd been so clever in keeping it a secret. You see, we thought you wanted... Well, that you wanted,
A proper wedding. Well, of course I did. Apart from the mercenary reasons, all those beautiful presents they got. Oh, the village would have felt done out of it. And so would Laura, if you asked her now.
You're right, as usual, Rosie.
No, Arthur, not as usual. Oh, my dear, you do look tired. Didn't you sleep last night?
No, not much.
I wish you'd let me talk to Geoffrey about love.
No, Rosie, no, it's all settled. I'm meeting the men in the estate office this afternoon and telling them. And tonight, the family.
Why don't you go and get some fresh air? Take a walk.
Good idea.
Darling, look, come along in here. Oh, good Lord, we can't possibly talk in here.
Oh, use my study. I'm just going out.
May I? I just want to have a word with my lady wife. Come on, Phil. Come on.
Fred, take those round to the back for me, will you? There's a love. I promised to take her ladyship a cup of coffee.
That's the trouble with weddings. All this tidying up after.
Why didn't you tell me sooner?
I thought it might spoil the wedding for you.
So you knew I'd hate the idea?
Well, not exactly.
Yes, you did. Have you no sense of responsibility? No, of course you haven't. It's never been your strong suit.
So it's irresponsible to fight for king and country, is it?
At your age? Especially when you've got a job that's considered essential. Well, Peter will have to go, of course. He was in the reserve before pool aviation was even thought of. But you have absolutely no excuse at all.
So I need an excuse, do I? My God, you do make me angry.
What do you think you make me? What's going to happen to me and the baby when you go and get yourself killed?
Well, you'll stay here at Larkfield. What better place? Phil, sweetie.
No! It's no good. You're appalling. You think this wretched war is some great game, and to hell with your wife and son.
God help this country if everybody had a wife like you.
Jack, what is it?
You'd better ask your auntie.
What was that all about? Oh, it was bound to happen sooner or later. I don't think they've had a decent row since the baby was born. Phil, what's the matter?
It's Jack, we've had a row.
We gathered that. Do you want to tell us about it?
It's typical of him.
Well, what is?
He's gone and applied for a commission in the Air Force without a word to anyone except Arthur, and he had to tell him to get him to pull strings for him. My dear brother didn't see fit to mention it to me.
Oh, I expect Jack wanted to tell you himself.
No, he did that all right. He just announced it. And when I asked him what would happen to me and my son when he'd got himself killed, he lost his temper.
Well, can you blame him? He probably doesn't want to think about that either.
Yes, I can blame him. He should have discussed it with me before committing himself.
Poor Phil.
Well, it'll be the same for most of us. After all, when the war comes, Klaus and Peter will have to go too.
They're young. They haven't got children to consider.
Excuse me, miss. Gates took a telephone message a little while ago from Mr. Forbes. He rang to say he would be calling at 12 o'clock and wondered whether Miss Bourne would care to lunch with him in Malvern.
Which Miss Bourne?
He didn't say.
He's terribly attractive. You'd better toss up for it. And I'd better go and see how poor old Mother is this morning.
Oh, poor old Mother is very well, thank you. But do come up. I have something to give you, if you're free at last.
Mother, this is ridiculous. You can't just give away all your jewellery.
Not quite all. And why not? It's still a free country, isn't it? Or am I wrong in thinking I can do as I like with my own possessions?
You can give the lot to a cat's home for all I care. I'm just advising you to be sensible.
Thank you. I can't think how I should manage without your admirably astute advice.
You're behaving as if you're senile. If you go on like this, people will think you're mad.
Really? How charming. And from my own daughter. Well, I suppose I'm fortunate to be living in 1938 and not 1838, when my dear family would doubtless have chained me to my bed.
Really, Mother, we're just trying to stop you making a decision which you might regret later when you've had a chance to think about it.
The only thing I regret is having allowed myself to be brought back to Larkfield and treated like a backward child.
Well, if that's true, it's because you behave like one.
Well, it's odd, isn't it, that I should have lived on my own in London for 14 years and found my way about without ever forgetting the way home.
Really, Mother, this conversation is absurd. There, if I take that, will it satisfy you?
You're not doing me a favour. I want you to choose carefully, and then I want a receipt.
A receipt?
Yes, for the revenue. Later on. Phyllis, you seem to be remarkably slow this morning. When I die...
Oh, Mother, don't talk about dying.
But that's the whole point. My jewels will be valued, and death duties will have to be paid, which means that either Arthur will have to find the money, or most of those things will be sold, and you and the girls won't get them.
It never occurred to me.
No, but it did to me. So I consulted my man of business, and it seems that if I can live for another 3 years, everything will be all right. Mind you, I may ask you to lend me a bracelet or a brooch from time to time, but as long as they're yours...
Good Lord. We all thought that...
Yes, I know, that's the trouble. Just because one's sometimes a little deaf or not quite so spry, one's loving family thinks one's going gaga.
No, I'm sorry. It was rude and ungrateful of me.
You've been having a row with Jack, haven't you?
How do you know?
I couldn't help hearing you.
Yes. He wants to join up and be killed. I mean...
I know what you mean. And I'm very sorry for you. But Jack must do as he thinks best, and you must tell him so. Come in.
Oh, excuse me, milady, but Mr. Henderson's here.
Oh, put him in the study, will you, Mrs. Gates?
Very good, milady.
Mr. Henderson isn't your bank manager.
Now, don't interfere, dear. Just choose what you want. And here is a valuation list, and your share is marked down. After all, if anything should happen to Jack, there'd be security for you, wouldn't there? So you think it will be adequate?
To save Larkfield, more than adequate, Lady Bourne.
Then I'll arrange for the necessary transfer of funds to the estate account.
This will be a very great relief. The Commander was under the impression that you'd bought an annuity.
I know. They all urged me to, but my man of business thought otherwise. My investments have paid me very well during the last few years, and when I saw him in London on Tuesday, he advised me to make over most of my capital to Arthur to save death duties. And as I have every intention of living a great deal longer than the next 3 years, I thought it sounded like a pretty good idea.
It's admirable, Lady Bull.
Oh, Arthur, dear, forgive me. I borrowed your study.
Well, of course. Everybody else does. Oh, young Alec Forbes is in the hall, asking to see Vicky.
Oh, it's Vicky, is it? Oh, he's much more suitable than poor Klaus. I'll come and see him. Thank you so much for coming in, Mr. Henderson. You'll explain to Arthur about the annuity I didn't buy.
Delighted.
Now, you can stop looking so worried, my poor boy. And get on with governing us all. Noise. Arthur.
Well, you better get used to it, Mother. It's the gas alarm.
Gas? I don't smell anything. It hasn't started yet, has it?
No, not yet, Mother.
Next weekend, they say.
Arthur's just giving us our marching orders.
Marching orders? I don't think I should go for that.
ARP, Lady B.
What?
Air raid precautions, Granny.
Oh, but I don't see how you can take precautions. The Tommies had a saying in the Great War, if a shell has your name on it, I should imagine it's the same thing with bombs.
Oh, Mother, there's not much you can do about a direct hit, but we can do a lot to protect ourselves from blasts, splinters, gas and so on.
Do you think they'll use gas on civilians?
They didn't in the Great War.
They weren't Nazis then, Mother.
They didn't have long-range bombers to make mass attacks.
Don't be so cheerful, Jack. You sound as if you're looking forward to it.
Order, please. Let's get on with it.
But, Daddy, even if they did use gas, they wouldn't use it right out here in the middle of the country, would they?
Birmingham's awfully near. You get a fresh northeasterly
Jack.
blowing. Sorry.
Now, first of all, blackout. When it starts, there'll be a total blackout throughout the country. There'll be no street lights, no car headlights, and no lights shining from any house. Gates. Oh, George Byrne will be arriving tomorrow to measure up for blackout boards. Every window in the house. When he arrives, I'd like to show him around and give him any help he needs.
Very good, sir.
Now, next, the shelter.
And apart from the floating gas cloud, do you really see Winchley or even Horbury as a target for bombers?
No, not immediately, perhaps. There may be troops billeted in the area, and one of the large houses may be taken over as a headquarters. And there's always a chance that a stray bomber may unload itself. So when the alarm sounds, I want you all to go to the cellar.
And you, Arthur?
I shan't be here, Mother. Gates.
Aye, aye, sir.
When the carpenter arrives, I want you to take him down to the cellar. He's going to supply some stout timbers.
Whatever for?
To shore it up. You don't want the house collapsing in on you, do you?
And next, gas. Now, perhaps you can take care of that department, Jack.
As long as I'm still here.
Yes, I want to make quite sure that every possible air inlet can be sealed off.
But it'll be like the black hole of Calcutta. We shan't be able to breathe.
Well, Mother, gas attacks won't last that long. There'll be enough air to keep it going. Mrs. Gates,
Yes, Commander.
I want you to help Mrs. Poole and Vicky equip the cellar.
Very good, sir.
I've arranged for some camp beds to be delivered, but you'll need some blankets and pillows and so on.
Oh, and a cot for the baby. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, of course, and a certain amount of food and drink.
A lot of drink there already, Arthur. They'll all be getting blotto on your best claret.
For heaven's sake, Jack, it is supposed to be serious.
But I can't understand why all of a sudden. We've had heaps of alarms during this past year, and nothing has come of any of them. Why is this so different?
Because, Mother, Mr. Chamberlain has flown to Germany twice in the last 10 days. And the only result has been that Hitler has increased his demands. The Czechs have rejected his ultimatum. They've got a new government, and they've mobilized. The Russians have said they'll fight if we do. The French have called up their reservists, and our Mediterranean fleet has been brought up to strength. And I hope that the whole fleet will be mobilized tomorrow. Yet in spite of this, Hitler still insists that he'll march into the Sudetenland on Saturday unless the Czechs give way by Wednesday.
I've already had mine fitted.
Yes, I know, but I want to see if you can wear it and retain your usual dignity.
I don't think anybody could.
Well, then you must try, for the sake of the staff.
Well, the staff has not as yet been issued with respirators.
Oh, thank you, Parson.
I beg your pardon.
Respirators. Now, that's a much nicer word than gas masks. I must remember that.
Will that be all?
No, you haven't tried it on yet?
You insist?
Oh, yes, I do. As a contribution to ARP and Layford.
Very good, madam.
Yes, that's quite pretty.
Well,
Well, no, not exactly pretty. Can you breathe in there?
no, madam.
Oh, dear. Yes, I thought perhaps the design was a little less than successful. But please do not tell the staff that. When they are issued with them, even if they can't wear them, they must always carry them about.
Yes, if they're still with us.
What do you mean?
I'm sorry to say, madam, that some of the staff may desert us in a crisis.
Oh, really? Why?
Many of the young ladies have heard from their mothers about the wages to be earned in factories in wartime.
Ah, yes. Well, that is very understandable. Patriotic, as well as profitable. Yes, well, I'm very pleased that the staff are leaving.
Pleased?
Yes, well, I'll tell you about it later. I must go now. I shall be late for church.
You will pray for peace, won't you, madam?
I did tell you I was lunching at Larkfield.
I wonder how long this charming custom of sherry after church will survive.
Presumably as long as the sherry lasts.
No, we're going to be all right. It's going to be a short walk.
Oh, for heaven's sake, don't say that.
Mother, you can't want a long one.
Certainly not. But it's unlucky to say that. It's what everybody said last time. It'll be over by Christmas, and look what happened. 4 endless years of slaughter.
Who said it was going to be short anyway?
Well, Geoffrey.
Well, what does he know about it?
Well, he says that Germany's very short of oil and all sorts of other raw materials, and the only thing we have to do is impose a tight blockade.
Only? And how does he suppose we're going to do that, having run down our fleet over the past 20 years?
Well, there's the French fleet, and if Italy remains neutral...
If?
Well, I suppose the Russians must have some ships.
There's always the Swiss Navy.
You're being funny again.
No, I'm afraid there's any question of a blockade. We're likely to be the victims, the way Germany's built up a submarine fleet. No, I'm afraid Geoffrey's got hold of the wrong end of the stick, as usual. But then he hasn't been notoriously balanced in his judgments recently.
Oh, but he is now. He's a new man, or should I say man revived. He's working all out, he's making his directors jump through hoops, and he's demanding an almost impossible level of production.
Yes, I've noticed that at Poole Aviation. Jolly good thing Peter's not here at the moment, otherwise he'd be made to jump through hoops too. And they might have one of those blazing rows.
Well, he's going to be back all too soon. Which raises an interesting question. What is Laura going to do? Go on living alone at the mill house, counting the days till Peter comes back on leave?
No, 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 no. If I know Laura, she'll want to be in the thick of it, driving an ambulance or something.
Well, that means I should be living alone at the mill house. Vicky, darling, you know Laura best. What do you think?
Vicky, darling.
I'm sorry, but you're all busy chattering away, happily making plans for the future. As if there's going to be any future. Well, I suppose there might be for some of you, but there isn't for me.
I'm sorry. That was tactless of us. But I understand. We all understand.
No, I'm sorry. Of course you must all make plans. Everyone's life is going to be changed. When are you leaving for London?
This evening.
I want to come with you.
Oh, do you think that's wise?
After this week, Klaus and I will never see each other again. Let us have our last few days together.
Vicky...
Please, take me.
All right, Vicky.
Bless you. Now, do you think I could give myself a stiffish drink?
Yes, of course.
Let me be your barman.
Oh, I hope it'll be all right.
Well, you couldn't have not taken her, could you?
Oh, what a mess. Rosie, what did you mean about you living alone at the mill house?
Well, apparently the army want to take over Layford Park as a convalescent home for officers, which is just as well as half my staff seem to be leaving.
Why don't you move in here?
Oh, would that be wise or even proper?
Well, I shan't be here all that much. And Mother will be here to act as a chaperone, if that's what you're worrying about.
Oh, I'm not worrying about it. I was just thinking about the gossip.
Rosie, why don't we, regularise the position?
Excuse me, Commander.
Yes, Gates.
Gates, the balloon gone up already, has it?
Oh, no, sir. No, not as far as I know. But I wonder if I might have a word with you, sir.
Of course, Gates. Carry on.
Well, I did mean in private, sir.
Oh? Is it urgent?
Well, I'd like to talk to you, sir, before you go back to London.
All right, Gates. I'll see you in my study after lunch.
Oh, thank you very much.
Gates.
My lady?
Petrol.
What do you mean, Mother? Petrol?
You know, Phyllis, that smelly stuff that makes motors go.
Helps the aeroplanes a bit, too.
Mother, we all know what petrol is, but what about it?
Arthur, you're being very dense. But after all, you've been in Parliament for a year, haven't you?
Mother, why did you suddenly shout out petrol?
Rationing, Arthur. I know you spent most of the war at sea in your comfortable ships, and I don't think you realised what a time we had trying to keep the home fires burning without enough fuel, or food, or petrol. Of course, it may be different now. Perhaps we grow the stuff here.
You know we don't.
Then I suggest that tomorrow Gates goes out and buys enough petrol to see us through. 100 gallons. 1,000 gallons. I don't know. And we could store it in vats and tubs.
I hardly think vats and tubs will do.
Well, I don't care what you put it in, as long as it's something sensible.
Mother, what you're suggesting is hoarding. It's absolutely monstrous.
I would call it prudent, Arthur. Very difficult for me to visit my friends without the motor.
Mother, we're not fighting this war so that you can visit your friends.
We're not fighting any war yet, so anything we do now is all right.
All right, Gates, I'll see you after lunch.
Oh, yes.
Now, Mother, enough of this.
Well, what have I done wrong?
You know perfectly well what you've done wrong. Suggesting that we hoard petrol and then discussing it in front of the servants.
Well, Gates has got to know, hasn't he? He'll have to see about storing it.
I can't think why everyone said the Victorians were so moral.
They weren't, you know. They were discreet. But you're not being very discreet, Lady B. You go on like this, you'll end up in Holloway.
Hollywood? Well, I must admit I've always had a penchant for John Barrymore.
All right, Mother. You spend your war in Hollywood with the Barrymores. I'm sure they'll never be short of petrol.
Rosie, you said Laura and Peter would be back soon. But why? I thought they were staying out there to the end of next week.
Well, yes, that was the plan, darling, but Peter's adjutant rang up. The squadron is on standby. They want Peter back.
That's what Klaus wants too. To go home and stand by. That's what we're all doing, isn't it? Standing by.
Where on earth have you been?
Getting your cough mixture.
Bless you, but why so long?
I got held up in the square.
The Place.
If you insist.
Watching that Grande Armée marching off to war.
Marching. Slouching. bloody frogs.
Darling, gone very jingo all of a sudden. How can you possibly talk like that about our glorious allies?
Glorious allies? My foot. Useless.
Oh, I hope not. We will be in the soup. Give me a Dubai and then we'll have some.
They're regular armies, all right, of course. They got some first-class regiments. It's those wretched, weedy conscripts they called up. They'll never fight. They'll use their rifles to shoot their officers in the back. They're all bullshit.
Surely not.
The only time they came to life was when their corporals started them singing the Internationale.
Yes, well, that's something we'll all have to get used to, isn't it?
What?
Take it easy, darling. I'm not pro-Bolshevik. You should know that, after what one saw in Spain. But if the Russians are going to be...
A lot of good they'll be.
All those millions?
Cannon fodder. Without any generals, anyway.
Come off it, Peter.
They're experienced ones. Old Stalin put pay to them in his last little purge. You know, in his way, Uncle Joe's as crazy as Uncle Adolf.
Peter.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't we forget about Stalin and Hitler for the moment?
I'm sorry.
We are supposed to be on honeymoon still.
Second honeymoon.
What's wrong with that?
Absolutely nothing. In fact, I think I prefer second honeymoons.
D'accord, mon cher. Attendez un moment. I suppose you better find out what they want. Is it?
Yes, this is it.
Call up.
Not exactly. Stand by.
What's the difference?
Nothing really when it comes to general mobilization. I'm afraid we'll have to go back.
Yes, of course. I'll go and start packing.
No, not yet. All the trains will be impossibly crowded with all the troop movement. None of the airlines will have any spare seats.
What do you suggest we do? Hitchhike?
I pre-warned Biggins that we might want to travel tomorrow, or Tuesday or Wednesday at the latest.
Yes, I suppose it was obvious.
So if we can get away tomorrow, means we can be in Birmingham on Tuesday, and I can report for duty on Wednesday.
Report for duty. Report for death.
Laura.
Sorry. Not my style, is it? Good old Laura, she's tough. She can take anything.
Please, darling.
No, all right, Peter, I really am sorry. Go and telephone Biggins.
I will. And then we're going to have one of those glorious French meals that last for hours.
A Lucullan feast with all the spécialités de la maison.
And then our blissful siesta.
And to hell with Hitler and all his works. I was mad, wasn't I, that time in Germany with Vicky? I quite fell for the little man. He really is a spellbinder, you know.
Well, at least you're not under his spell now. Shall we go?
Hitler's bewitched the German people.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I think he's infallible. And we've played into his hands.
How's that, sir?
Appeasement, Gates. Appeasement. He thinks that we're an effete people.
Oh, what, sir?
Decadent, feeble. He thinks we haven't got the will to fight.
Ah, well, now, that's what I wanted to talk to you about, sir.
What about fighting?
That's right, sir. I want to get back.
What, into the Royal Marines?
Yes, sir.
Well, forgive me, Gates, I don't want to offend you, but aren't you a little bit long in the tooth for active service?
Oh, there'll be plenty of jobs for older men, sir. The depot, there'll be one in mess waiters, drivers, and so on.
Yes, I can understand you wanting to get back into uniform. I feel the same way myself. But don't you think your job here is equally important?
Aren't you? Taking Lady Bourne to church, sir. Mowing the lawn, keeping the flower beds tidy. No, sir.
Growing food. Enlarging the kitchen garden. You may even have to plough up the lawn. And, of course, generally looking after the place while I'm away.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commander.
Gates, you're on the reserve. They'll call you up when they want to. Why not wait for that?
But I want to get back, sir.
Always assuming they'll have you. If they extend the court, it may take some time.
I'll like and try.
Well, if you're convinced, I can't stop you, of course. But if you go down to the depot at Deal, what about Mrs. Gates?
Oh, well, she'll stay here, sir, of course.
Oh, she? I wonder. Have you told her of your plan?
Well, no, sir, not yet.
Oh. Well, all I ask, Gates, is that you don't do anything in a hurry. After all, we're not at war yet. Here.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Take a bit of time. Think it over, Gates. We'll see how things go, all right?
All right, sir. Shall we say until the end of the week, sir? Well, that's when it's supposed to start, isn't it?
Barring a miracle? Yes, Gates. That's when it's supposed to start.
All right. Yes, all fixed. We fly tomorrow. Lyon, Paris, London. Stay there the night, then on to Birmingham the next day. I can pick up my gear, get you installed in the mill house. You'd have a better idea if you moved into Layford with Rosie.
No.
Less lonely for you. Maybe Rosie would move in to the mill house with you.
Peter, I said no. I'm going up to London with you.
Why not? For a few days before it starts.
No, not for a few days. Oh, dear. I hadn't meant to say this until we got home. But I suppose I better tell you now so you can get used to the idea.
Tell me what?
What I'm going to do in the war.
We know what you're going to do. You're going to move in the mill house or Layford, whichever works out. And then you're going to help Rosie on the WVS. And then you're
going to what?
But we've already discussed this, Laura. You're going to raise a family.
Yes, I was afraid you'd say that.
Why afraid?
Look, I know you want a family. I do too. But when we discussed it, it was on the assumption that life went on as it was.
But it will in Herefordshire. All right, you might have to pull in your belts a bit, with shortages and rationing and so on, but you'd be perfectly safe.
You can't possibly tell. I know what modern war is like, and so do you, for that matter.
But Spain is a civil war.
What difference does that make? The effect's the same. Shells, bullets, bombs, piles of rubble, the unburied corpses and screaming wounded and the starving children who've lost their parents. No, it's not right to bring babies into that kind of world.
For heaven's sake, why didn't you tell me?
Because I hadn't really thought about it before. And if I had said it before we were married, would you have cried off? Was it really lots of little Cartlands you wanted and not me?
I wanted both. Why, surely isn't that what marriage is supposed to be about?
Not in wartime.
But there won't be a war in Herefordshire.
I won't be in Herefordshire either.
Where will you be?
In London or wherever I'm sent. I'm going to join up.
Join up where? As what?
As a driver, in the Fannies if they'll have me, if not in this new ATS thing.
Look, if it's work you want, there'll be plenty of work with Rosie and the WVS.
And I can get on with raising a family, that's what you mean, isn't it?
Well?
No, Peter, the WVS in the rural areas, that's for older women.
And what you're talking of doing is for single women.
And is the Auxiliary Air Force only for single men?
Look, I didn't marry you so you could go and get yourself blasted to smithereens.
And I didn't marry you so you could get shot down in flames.
It's grossly unfair. Been a member of the Auxiliary Air Force before we even met, and you've known it.
Yes. We have wandered from the point slightly, that being our overwhelming desire to become a father, irrespective of what the future may be.
And that's unfair as well. You've always been very keen to be a mother until now, at least you said you were.
I'm sorry, Peter. I really am sorry. But it's not my fault. It isn't your fault either. It's just the way things are. The way they're going to be for everybody. This is our last night before everything changes. Couldn't we say Pax?
Peace? Well, let's call it an armistice.
Good of you to keep Mother company this evening, Rosie.
I'm very fond of her. But I'm afraid I might not be able to do it again this week.
No, that's all right. Phyllis and Jack will be here. It's only tonight they're out.
Good. I am going to be busy-ish.
Oh, gas masks. Looking for billets for evacuees.
And so on. Actually, Mrs. Hedges has got the dirty work of billeting. I'll only have to keep my eye on things and sort out muddles and soothe people down that she might upset.
Well, that should keep you busy enough.
She'll be expecting you to take some, you know, Arthur. Evacuees, I mean.
Yes, well, I was expecting it.
I don't think Mrs. Gates is going to like it very much.
Well, we'll all have to make sacrifices. I'm leaving it to Phyllis to break it to her.
Coward.
such a lovely evening. Why don't we... Oh, are you going, Arthur?
As soon as Vicky's ready.
I am ready.
Oh, good. Now, Gates, you got my bag?
Yes, sir. Your dispatch box is in the car, sir.
Vicky, darling, you're only going for 2 or 3 days. Why that very heavy coat and the enormous suitcase?
You know how changeable the weather is. Goodbye, Granny.
Goodbye, darling. We'll see you on Wednesday or Thursday. Be sure to ring up so that Gates knows which train to meet.
Goodbye, Rosie.
Bye-bye, darling.
Good luck with your WVS work.
Thank you. And as soon as you get back, I'm going to recruit you.
I'll write to you, Rosie, about regularizing the position.
Will you, Arthur?
Yes, I will. Oh, hi, Mother. Keep your pecker up.
My pecker's never been down. It's all of you who are so agitated.
Excuse me, Commander, but the time's
Yeah, it's all right, Gates. Coming. Oh, bye.
Bye.
Oh, dear. What a fuss about nothing.
Now, do you really believe that?
Well, I'm not the only one. I was talking to Evelyn on the telephone this afternoon, and he says the 2 Nevilles will never let it happen.
The 2 who?
Neville Chamberlain and Neville Henderson, our ambassador in Berlin.
Of course.
It seems that Ambassador Neville thinks Hitler is right, and the Czechs must give way. Why? Well, it's rather complicated, but according to Evelyn, it all goes back to that peace conference in 1919, when they broke up the Austrian Empire and invented a lot of other countries. In fact, they drew a new map of Europe, but they drew it all wrong. And can you wonder when you think who was responsible? There was that American President Wilson, full of airy-fairy ideas and totally impractical. And old Tiger Clemenceau growling about revenge. That was all he was interested in. And our Mr. Lloyd George, so disgracefully immoral. What a trio to sit down and try to draw a map. Oh, can you wonder we got in such a muddle again so soon?
Breakfast all right?
Oh, delicious. Far better than my Mrs. Benton makes.
Oh, she's doing the bedrooms.
Oh, what have you been doing?
I've been nowhere special. Just walking about and looking.
Plenty to look at, eh?
Oh, it's amazing what's happened in only a week. Sandbags being piled up outside buildings in Whitehall. Trenches in St. James's Park.
And all the parks.
Oh, I suppose so. And the squares. In Vincent Square, boys from Westminster were digging up their own playing fields. And then there were soldiers in the park, not just digging, but standing round a big gun.
Our one anti-aircraft gun.
One?
No, not literally, of course.
You mean we haven't got enough?
Our anti-aircraft defences are farcical. Thank God you won't be in London when it starts.
No. Do you think it'll be the same in Paris and Berlin? And Munich?
Oh, Paris, certainly. Berlin, probably. Munich, I don't know. Why? Is it because Klaus will be there?
I suppose he will. Till he actually joins his squadron, or whatever they call it.
Have you spoken to Klaus?
Yes. Isn't it maddening? He's had to go to Manchester on business for the Reichsbank. So bogus at a time like this. But he's coming here tomorrow, if that's all right.
Oh, it's perfectly all right by me. Vicky, darling, do you think it's a good idea to see Klaus before he goes? Wouldn't it be better?
Yes, I must see him.
Yes. You know, I remember just after you left school, before you went to Germany, your mother and I wondered whether it wouldn't be better to send you to France. Paris was in a turmoil. The Stavisky affair, Front Populaire, riots, marches.
Marches? I nearly forgot. I bought a copy of Modern Life while I was out.
Oh, that interview with Klaus. Well, what's it like?
It's not there.
What?
Well, evidently Miss Scott changed her mind and decided not to write it after all. There's a different piece by her about women and war, about the ATS and the FNA.
Well, that is a relief.
Yes, she was loyal to you after all, and not to her profession. You better ring her up and thank her.
Vicky, I know you don't like Angela, all the same.
It doesn't matter whether I like her or not, does it? You do. Any more than it matters who likes Klaus, because I do.
Yes, well, I must get to the Admiralty and later on the house. I may be late there. What about you?
Oh, I'll be all right. I'm lunching with Prue Berwick. She's a deb with Laura and me. And then this evening, I think I might come back and listen to the wireless, if there's anything on.
I'll tell you what's on. Hitler's speech at the Berlin Sport Palace.
Is it important?
It might be. Might be the miracle we're all hoping for. If he shows any sign of a compromise. Bye, Vicky. Let's keep our fingers crossed, eh?
Good morning, Phyllis.
Oh, Mother, did you sleep well?
Like a log, as they say. Although why they say that, I've never been able to understand. I haven't seen a paper this morning. Is there any news?
Robbery, rape and murder.
I said news, dear.
Hitler's speech in Berlin last night.
Oh, yes. Has it climbed down a little?
Not that I can see. The ultimatum's still on. Accept the terms by Wednesday, or it's war on Saturday.
Extraordinary. You don't think Evelyn could have been wrong, do you, about the two Nevilles?
It looks like it.
Well, in that case, Phyllis, we have work to do.
What sort of work?
The store cupboard, just in case.
Well, you know how Arthur feels about hoarding.
Well, he can do as he chooses about the petrol, but the larder is our concern. We must lay in a lot of provisions, plenty of tinned foods.
And gin.
If you insist. We must also bear in mind that the house will be very full on account of evacuees and so on. We'd better make a list. Now, there'll be you and Jack and the baby.
Oh, I don't know about Jack.
Oh, I thought he'd take over in Birmingham as soon as Peter goes.
Unless the RAF accept him.
Oh, well, in that case, he'll be here when he's on leave. We'll put him down anyway. Then there'll be Nanny Gibson and our own Nanny when she gets back.
Oh, Jack, what have you been doing?
I've been lending a hand in the cellar. Say, is that for me?
Yes, it's from your tailor. You didn't tell me you'd ordered a new suit.
Very sensible. We should all order new clothes now. It may be difficult later on.
Yes, well, I must go and clean up and change and so on.
Not now, Phyllis, dear. We have work to do.
Hello? Oh, my darling. Welcome back. Peter.
Rosie. I'm sorry we were late. We had a spot of engine trouble and had to stay the night in Paris.
Oh, you poor things.
Oh, we were all right. The Dunois put us up.
No, being summoned back from your honeymoon. You should have got married in the summer as planned.
Yes, weren't we fools?
Still, we have to take everything on the chin these days, I hear. Well, now, what news of our allies?
Well, I wouldn't say too good from the little we saw in Paris.
Anyone who can has gone off to the country in rather a hurry.
Of course, there's a lot of bravado about this impregnable Maginot Line, and they shall not pass. But I'd say the general atmosphere was one of subdued panic. And a few people we saw at the Dunois, they seemed to be more worried about their own communists than the Germans.
Oh, dear, dear. Oh, well, perhaps they'll back their ideas up a bit when it comes to the point. Well, you must be exhausted after your journey. We'll have an early lunch, and then you can have a rest.
Oh, absolutely not. I've just come to pick up my gear. Let's get Parsons to help me pack. And then after lunch, I'm straight off to London.
Me too.
Oh, no. Why must you?
Don't ask that, or you'll start Peter off again.
Certainly would.
In spite of the fact that we agreed I should do
We agreed to differ. Until you changed your mind.
Or until you did.
For heaven's sake, Rosie, talk some sense into her. Parsons?
Why must I always be the one to talk sense? Trouble in paradise?
Trouble in purgatory. Peter wants me to spend the war producing babies, regularly, one a year, every autumn after his Christmas leave.
Oh, darling, don't exaggerate.
Am I? Well, perhaps, but that's the principle of the thing. He goes off to the wars and I sit at home spinning.
Well, someone has to spin, and there has to be a new generation.
To inherit what? A shambles.
You want to be in the thick of things, do you?
Weren't you in the WRNS in the last war?
Yes, only towards the end, and I wasn't married.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rosie, but I've quite made up my mind. Only Peter's
Well, yes, Peter has some very old-fashioned ideas.
Mr. Cartland, madam.
Oh, thank you, Parsons.
I keep telling Parsons there's no need to announce me. Rosie, dear.
Hello.
Laura? How nice.
Well, it's always a pleasure to see you, Geoffrey, but now...
Now we're divorced.
Oh, please.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist that. What were you going to say?
Well, it's a pleasure to see you, but how can you tear yourself away from your tanks?
Tanks? What tanks? Oh, never mind, that's a state secret.
You mean there aren't any?
Well, how did you guess? But there are hundreds of what they now call thin-skinned vehicles parked on dispersal at Elsmore, which, if you remember, was the whole point of the Elsmore project.
Oh, I remember it very well, Geoffrey, one of your coups.
Yes, so I've come to warn you. No matter how safe you may feel yourselves to be, it only takes one Irishman to spot them and pass the word, and this place becomes a target area. So ARP, Rosie. Don't neglect it.
No, I won't forget. But the Army is taking over Layford Park as a convalescent home for officers, so I imagine they'll make their own arrangements.
What about Larkfield?
Oh, I'm on my way there now to give them the same warning.
My God.
What? Oh.
Come here, Jack, and let me have a look at you. Yes, it suits you. Don't you think, Phyllis?
No, I don't. I think it's ghastly. Why didn't you tell me before? You never tell me anything now.
Well, I had no idea the tailor would run it up so quickly. Must have been a surge of patriotism among the cutters, I suppose.
Don't be stupid, I'm not talking about the uniform. Why didn't you tell me they'd accepted you?
Well, because, well, they haven't, actually. Not yet.
Then what on earth do you think you're playing at?
Jumping the gun, so that I shall be ready when the call comes.
If it comes.
I'm quietly confident.
But if you're not commissioned yet, is it wise?
No, of course it's not. He's mad. Go and take it off at once. If anyone sees you masquerading in that get-up, you'll be run in for false pretenses, passing yourself off as an officer and a gentleman.
I don't think you have to be a gentleman in the Royal Air Force.
May I come in?
No. Oh, Geoffrey, yes, of course.
I don't believe it. Well, I'm sorry. Good morning, Lady Morgan.
Mr. Cartland.
Whose idea was this? Trying to pass off as a hero? You know perfectly well Pool Aviation will have a lot of very essential work to do in this war, ferrying supplies for the services and so on.
Yes, well, let's talk about that later, shall we? I suppose I'd better go and change.
Well, I'm sorry, but I think it's irresponsible and self-indulgent.
It hasn't actually happened yet.
What?
He's jumped the gun, as he puts it. He's indulging a childish passion for dressing up.
Do you want him to go?
It's the last thing in the world I want.
All right, don't worry. I'll see it doesn't go any further.
Can you?
Well, a man of his age in essential work. A word to the Ministry of Supply, passed on to the Air Ministry.
Geoffrey, you're a marvel. How can I ever thank you?
Oh, don't try. My motives are entirely selfish. I'm going to need Jack Poole.
Oh, for heaven's sake, don't tell him what you're doing.
Oh, certainly not.
And you, Mother, not a word to anyone, not even your old flame.
You should know that I never gossip about the family.
No, Mother.
Now, I'm going up to the WVS headquarters in London, Parsons. I shall be leaving immediately after lunch by car and taking Mr. and Mrs. Peter with me.
Very good, madam.
I shall be staying the night, but coming back tomorrow. Oh, and Captain Oldershaw will be here for tomorrow night, but I'll telephone you in any case. Oh, answer it in here.
Yes, ma'am. Layford Park? Oh, yes, hold on, please. I'll find out. It's Miss Elizabeth. Dr. Bourne, I should say.
Thank you.
Hello, Liz, my dear. How are you? Good. Vicky? Oh, she's at Larkfield. No, of course she's in London. Yes. Well, she went up to say goodbye to Klaus, poor child.
When do you leave?
Soon. I must be at the aerodrome in 2 hours.
That's all right. I'm all ready.
For what?
I'm coming with you.
To see me off?
No, to Germany.
It'd be nice if you could fly with me and then fly back, but it's too late. All the seats in there.
All right, I'll go by sea and by rail and meet you in Munich.
But you might not be able to get back in time.
I'm not coming back. I'm going with you to stay.
Well, Vicky, how many times have you talked with us? You know it is impossible.
Nothing is impossible.
This is impossible, and you know it is.
You're only repeating that because you've always said it. Why is it impossible?
Apart from any other reason, because your father would not permit it.
He wouldn't stop me by force.
I think he might if he knew. He understands as well as I do that it would not be safe for you in Germany.
Safe? It won't be safe anywhere with you and Peter and thousands of others trying to shoot each other out of the sky and millions of civilians being blown up in their houses.
But Vicky, I do not mean that it would not be safe.
Don't keep interrupting me. You're turning into a bully. I suppose you're still a Nazi at heart. You just want to go back alone and marry some great blue-eyed blonde of a Fräulein and raise Aryan brats for the Führer.
Have you finished?
Except to say that if you love me, you'll let me come and we'll be married and be together for whatever time we have left.
Although we have spoken of this so many times, you still do not understand.
I do understand. Don't treat me like a half-witted child.
Vicky, let me say it once more. When I speak of not safe, I do not mean not safe because of the war. In war, everyone takes his chance. I mean not safe as a British citizen living in Germany. You've been turned at the least.
I won't be British when I'm married to you.
Even as my wife, perhaps even more so. The English MP's child, who is daughter-in-law to the disloyal General von Heinig. Believe me, it'd be so easy for me to say, yes, do come. And I would be so happy, but...
Oh, then why not say it? Why behave like this?
I behave like myself because I think of your future and not of my own present.
Oh, you're so noble, aren't you? And so insensitive. And so cruel. And so German.
Please, we cannot part like this. Please, try and be calm and sensible.
Perhaps I would be better off without you. If all our life were going to be calm and sensible.
Now, Mrs. Gates, let's try and be calm and sensible and get to the bottom of this.
It's no good, Mrs. Poole. I can't be doing with it.
But what can't you be doing with, Mrs. Gates?
Refugees, my lady.
What? Oh, you mean evacuees?
Doesn't matter what they're called.
Yes, I was going to tell you about them.
Well, Mrs. Edges has just told me. It seems that we're going to get a pack of women and children dumped on us.
Not a pack, Mrs. Gates. The house will be very full as it is. Maybe a mother with 2 young children, or perhaps a couple of older children on their own.
And am I supposed to cook and clean for a lot of dirty brats from the slums of Birmingham?
Not necessarily dirty.
You haven't seen them slums, madam.
And not necessarily from the slums.
And they won't be dirty after they've been put in a bath and scrubbed.
And who's going to do that? I mean, Daddy's not back yet, and even if she was, I don't... No, it's no good, my lady. I'm going to look for war work.
No, I forbid it. We cannot have this war made an excuse for everyone to go off and do something different. Otherwise, what are we fighting for?
Well, I'm very sorry, my lady. But if Gates is going back into Marines,
Is
well,
he?
I don't... Well, he says he is. And if he does, well, I don't see why I shouldn't do my bit and all.
You can do your bit here, looking after us.
Begging your pardon, madam, but I'd hardly call that war work.
Excuse me, my lady, but I didn't know Mrs. Gates was going to speak out now. I did ask her to stop and think before she said anything. I hope you haven't been listening to her nonsense.
It's not nonsense.
We couldn't help listening, Gates.
But now that Mrs. Gates has got it off her chest, may I suggest a little prudence on both your parts? I mean, do look before you leap. And remember, patriotism is not enough. And now, Mrs. Gates, I've made a list of things that we shall need for the store cupboard. And I want you to read it very carefully and then take a pen and write down any additions you feel we should make.
Oh, horrible. Fantastic.
incredible it is that we should be digging trenches and trying on gas masks here because of a quarrel in a faraway country between people of whom we know nothing.
Oh, poor Mr. Chamberlain. He's in an impossible situation.
But war is a fearful thing, and we must be very clear before we embark on it that it is really the great issues that are at stake, and that the call to risk everything in their defense when all the consequences are weighed is irresistible. For the present, I ask you to wait as calmly as you can for the events of the next few days.
Oh, come along in. What a very pleasant coincidence that we met outside like that. Restores my faith in Kismet.
It wasn't really a coincidence. I was on my way round to see if you were back from the house. I spent most of the day around the corner in Grosvenor Place.
Oh, really?
Yes, the new Women's Army, the ATS.
Oh, yeah, interviewing Tommies. Oh, no, it can't have been Tommies. What's the female equivalent of a Tommy?
I don't know. I'd have to invent a word. An Angela, perhaps?
Oh, well, hardly. Well, I don't suppose you want vermouth at this time of night.
No.
Whiskey, brandy?
Whiskey and a lot of soda.
Oh.
Arthur, I was only on my way round because I had a message in the office to say that you telephoned.
I did indeed telephone. To thank you.
Oh?
Oh, you know what I mean. For suppressing that interview between Liz and Klaus and that dreadful friend of Liz's.
Suppressing? Is that what you think I did?
Well, it wasn't published.
No.
Well, didn't you?
Arthur, I came to make the peace and to say goodbye.
Well, where are you going?
Paris, Prague, anywhere I can get.
Oh, why?
The new series, Women and War.
Oh, shouldn't it be Women at War?
We're not yet, are we?
Did you hear Chamberlain on the wireless?
Yes. Faraway country, people of whom we know nothing?
Exactly.
You don't think he's getting ready to sell out?
Oh, I don't know. No, I don't think so. Not even the PM would do a thing like that. The Cabinet would never support him.
Simon and Halifax?
Yes, but some of the younger men, Duff Cooper and... Do you know, the PM said that he'd announced the mobilisation of the fleet when he went on the wireless. He didn't say a word.
Has the fleet been mobilised?
No, yes, there's no secret about it. It'll be in the papers tomorrow. But he should have made a point of it.
He should have made a threat of it.
Yes, if you like. The only thing that men like Hitler understand is action. Decisive action, not a lot of diplomatic soft soap. Do you know, I really believe this war could have been averted if we'd made a formal alliance with Russia and France to guarantee Czechoslovakia.
An alliance with Russia. Let them into the Balkans. Would that really be a good idea?
No, it would have been an appalling idea, but the lesser of two evils. As it is, Chamberlain makes scuttling noises on the wireless, and that makes Hitler believe that we haven't got the stomach to fight.
You know, it's curious to think that this time next week we'll all be in the thick of it and this sort of talk will be forgotten. In a way, it'll be a relief after hovering on the brink for so long.
Yes. No more doubts, no more heart-searchings. You know, in a way, I wish you could start now, instead of having to wait till Saturday.
Oh, don't say that. I want to get at least as far as Paris before the railways are swamped with troop trains.
When are you going?
Thursday.
Take care of yourself, Angela.
We'll all be trying to do that, I imagine. I wish I wasn't so sure that I'm going to be absolutely terrified. Even the thought of an air raid gives me butterflies.
Well, it's the same for everybody, except those without any imagination.
Yes, of course. I shouldn't have mentioned it. Look, I really ought to be going. I've got millions of things.
I want to tell you how grateful I am about that article. When it came to the point, your loyalty was to your friends, not to profession.
Look, Arthur, I should have told you when I first arrived.
Oh, excuse me. Oh, that'll probably be Jim Ferris. He's a Labour backbencher that lives in the block. I'll tell him to come back later. Rosie?
Now, don't say a word. If you're busy, I won't stay.
Oh.
I'm only dropping Laura. I came to see Vicky if she's here. If not, I'll... Oh, hello.
Hello.
Good evening, Miss Scott. Arthur, I'm very sorry. I should have rung before.
Oh, no.
It's all right, Mrs. Cartland. I was just leaving. I only came in for a moment to say goodbye.
Oh, are you going away?
Yes, abroad for my journal.
Oh, how exciting for you. It'll be a consolation, too, won't it? For your disappointment over the interview with Klaus and Liz.
Disappointment? What do you mean? Angela withdrew her article.
No, I didn't.
What?
If that's what I thought you really thought, I'd never have mentioned it, Arthur.
I was trying to tell you, Arthur, when the bell rang. I can't think what Mrs. Cartland knows about it.
Because Liz telephoned me. Her doctor friend was very angry when the article didn't appear. So she rang, Modern Life. They told her.
Told her what, for heaven's sake?
Well, Miss Scott was just about to explain. I'm sure she'll do it much better than me.
I didn't withdraw the article, Arthur. I wanted them to publish it. But it was spiked because there just wasn't room for it. Well, so much has happened in the world in the last 2 weeks that that article was dead. I really was trying to tell you. Anyway, it doesn't matter now. I don't suppose we'll meet again unless we survive the Holocaust. Goodbye, Mrs. Cartland.
Laura, please don't go on my account. I'm not staying.
Oh, I must. When one's going into exile, there's so much to do. So many loose ends to tie up, apart from the bore of the actual packing. Goodbye, Arthur. See you again when peace breaks out, perhaps.
Oh, goodbye, Angela. Good luck with your...
That was pretty bitchy, wasn't it? Well, wouldn't you have been?
I expect so. Only I wouldn't have done it so well.
Trying to worm her way back into Arthur's affections by...
I'm sorry about that.
You have nothing to be sorry about.
Actually, we came to see Vicky. Or at least I did. But I gather she's not in.
Oh? Well, she's probably in a bedroom somewhere.
Oh, well, I'll go and have a look.
Rosie, please believe me. I had no idea Angela was coming in. She just dropped in out of the blue.
As I did. One should never do it, and one never learns. Oh, please, don't make excuses. It's none of my business.
But, Rosie, it is.
She's gone.
Vicky? Well, she's probably gone out to dinner or something.
No, her room's empty. No luggage, no clothes, nothing except this note for you.
Oh? My God, the silly little fool.
Oh, what is it?
She's gone chasing after Klaus.
To his flat?
To Germany.
Oh, my God, but that's appalling. Can't you get onto the Home Office and stop her?
Too late. She left this morning. Whatever route she took, she'll be out of the country by now. And on her way to Munich.
Arthur would get back soon. Tell us what happened in the house this afternoon.
Oh, so do I.
There we are, all complete. Now, if the Fuhrer sees fit to drop a load of bombs on us tomorrow, we shall all be safe and snug in our air raid shelter.
Don't.
Now, I've made a lovely little sleeping bunk for our son and heir. And tomorrow, you and Mrs. Gates can spend all day stocking it with provisions.
Very well, darling. I just wish you didn't enjoy it quite so much.
Don't be silly, Phyllis. Jack has done marvels these last few days.
So has Gates.
By the way, Rosie and Bill Oldershaw are coming over for a drink.
Oh, Bill Oldershaw staying the weekend again, is he? I wonder.
So do we all. He's always been attracted to Rosie.
Well, there's the car. Darling, for heaven's sake, put a clean shirt on. You look a disgrace.
All right, but you'll have to fix the drinks.
Yes, of course. Oh, Jack, thank you for working so hard for us all. I just hope your labours will have been in vain.
Afraid there won't be, you know. We're all for it.
Don't.
Rosie, my darling.
Hello, Phil. You remember Bill, don't you?
Yes, of course.
Hello.
Let me take your hand.
Alice, good evening. How are you, darling?
I'm all right.
Alice has been up writing labels.
My dear Lady
Oh, how
Vaughan.
nice to see you.
It's Brandy's.
Yes, please. I just picked Bill up at the station. He's brought a whole case of precious things for me to store at Layford. Oh, have you got those labels
Yes,
for the
I have.
evacuees? Thank you.
What sort of things?
A few pictures, silver, some rare books, things my old father left me. When the bombs start, they'll be a great deal safer here than in London.
So you don't think we shall have any bombs?
Unlikely in the extreme. You're well off the beaten track.
Don't say that to my poor husband. He's been working his fingers to the bone making a deluxe air raid shelter for us all.
I won't say a word.
When do you go back?
Oh, tomorrow morning at dawn, now that the fleet's mobilised. We'll be back into the old uniform for the duration.
Where will they send you?
You must know as well as I do, Lady Bourne, that I won't know that until the powers that be make up their minds.
Don't say that.
Phil, do you mind if I help myself to another one? I'm absolutely exhausted. My day started at 8 a.m.
Oh, WVS.
Yes. Evacuees. They're going to send us 30. Clean, polite children from a respectable suburb. But from the way some of our ladies have gone on this afternoon, you'd think we were expecting a tribe of gypsies.
Lots of excuses.
Oh, my dear, you wouldn't believe it. I was really quite ashamed of our locals. Oh, but the others were marvellous. Do you remember Miss Johnson, who's crippled with rheumatism? She offered to take 4.
Undoubtedly kill her.
Well, of course it would. I personally will find a nice, quiet little girl for her.
And what about Larkfield?
Ah, well, they're down for 3.
No.
Oh, come on now, Phil. You know you've got plenty of room here. I shall let Nanny pick out your lot. After all, she's going to look after them, isn't she? She's going to spend most of the day with me tomorrow. I suspect she's quite looking forward to it.
I hope she'll choose girls. Much quieter than boys, and I can teach them to embroider.
Poor little things.
At last.
And high time.
Oh, Phil. Sorry I'm late. Trains are all over the place and absolutely packed.
People fleeing from the metropolis, I imagine.
That's right. Well, how goes it, Phil?
That's what we want you to tell us.
Drink, Arthur.
Brandy, please, Phil, and a stiffish one. Oh, Rosie, my dear.
Oh, Arthur, so you're back. Hello, Rosie. Bill.
Hello, Jack.
Well, I hope you're going to give us all the dope.
He is, darling, when you stop talking.
Oh.
Tiny drop of brandy, Mother.
Please.
Well, it really was quite extraordinary. The house was packed, which was understandable. Ambassadors, members of the royal family, even Queen Mary, whom I'm told has never been in the house before.
Nonsense. She must have been in Parliament constantly.
Now, the House of Lords, Mother, not the Commons.
Ah.
Go on, Arthur.
Well, the atmosphere was tense, but defiant. Some MPs said it reminded them of August 1914. Then the Prime Minister came in and was loudly cheered.
By the opposition?
Well, no.
By you?
Well, no. Some of us on the government benches had reservations. But he spoke well, slowly and deliberately, outlining the steps that led up to the present crisis. And then, after about an hour, he was getting to what we all knew would be an announcement of war in a few days. Then I suddenly saw the Foreign Office officials signalling wildly. and Dunglass fetching a bit of paper from them, which he gave to Simon, who read it. Then he went over and tugged at the Prime Minister's coat. There was utter silence while Chamberlain read the paper and conferred with Simon, Halifax, and others. Then he told us that he telegraphed that morning to Hitler and Mussolini, and that Mussolini had not let him down. Hitler had agreed to postpone full German mobilization for 24 hours and had invited Daladier, Mussolini, and Mr. Chamberlain himself to a meeting in Munich tomorrow.
And then?
Then the house went wild, waving order papers and cheering wildly, except a few of us that remained seated and were jeered at. And that was that. So, the four powers meet tomorrow in Munich, and what happens then, God only knows. It's a grim choice. War now, or give Hitler Czechoslovakia and fight him later. Point is, will we be any more ready then?
Oh, look at Alice.
No, well, I'm not surprised. Phil, you better take her to bed.
Come on, Bill. We must go home, too. I'm dead on my feet. I've got a long day tomorrow as well.
Bye-bye, Rosie. Lovely to see you.
Oh, Rosie, have you heard any more from the War Office about taking over Layford?
Yes, we've got some medical brass hats coming down on Friday.
Mother. You dropped off, darling.
Did I? I knew that brandy was a mistake.
Come on, I'll help you to bed.
Were you doing anything tomorrow night, Bill?
Unless I'm sent off to Invergordon or Plymouth or even Alex.
Only I've had an invitation to a dinner. Could be quite interesting. Some MPs and some eminent journalists. I'm allowed to take a guest, so if it interests you.
Oh, I'd like it very much indeed. If I'm in London, can I let you know in the morning?
Yes, of course. Rosie's got my numbers, both of them.
Good night, darling. Thank you for the drinks.
No, boy. I'll see you tomorrow, I hope.
Night, Bill.
I get the impression, Arthur, that you aren't pleased with this latest development.
No, I'm not.
Think what we're facing. Now, if Chamberlain brings it off, we can breathe again and watch our children grow up in safety.
I hope you're right, Jack.
I'll go up and see Mother again later. Do you want some food, Arthur?
No, thanks, Phil. I had dinner on the train. I'm glad of a chance to talk to you two alone. No point in worrying Mother. It's about Vicky.
Vicky?
She's all right, isn't she?
I hope so. She hasn't telephoned here by any chance, has she?
No.
Why should she?
I better put you in the picture. Point of the matter is that yesterday morning, Vicky went to Munich, left me a note, which I didn't get till the evening.
You mean she's run away?
I mean she refuses to be parted from Klaus.
Dear God.
His doing, no doubt.
No, you're wrong there. It's the last thing he wanted. They had a row about it before he left.
Surely she should have arrived there by now.
Well, in normal conditions, yes, but I expect the trains to be absolutely packed with troops.
The brutal and licentious soldiery and our little Vicky, eh?
You really are a tactless fellow, Jack.
Sorry. But surely she'll telephone you when she gets there.
Oh, she said she would, if she can get a line.
Arthur, dear.
Mother! I thought you'd gone to bed.
I have almost. But I did just want to know whether you'd heard if Vicky had arrived in Munich yet.
You knew?
Well, I guessed, dear, when I saw that winter coat and the enormous suitcase. And then when Nanny came and told me she'd taken nearly all her clothes and her photographs and all her little china animals, well, it became obvious, didn't it?
You never said anything to us.
Well, I didn't want to worry you and Jack. You'd had quite enough on your minds.
Hello? Yes, Arthur Bourne speaking. Yes? It's Munich. It sounds like quite a good line. Hello, Vicky, thank goodness.
Daddy? Oh, I'm sorry. You must have been worrying like mad.
I still am. Vicky, you've got to come back.
I can't. Really, I can't. Not till I've seen Klaus.
Well, isn't he in Munich with you?
He's on standby. But he'll be back tomorrow, and then we're going to talk everything out.
Listen, Vicky, would you get Klaus to ring me without fail?
Yes, I promise.
And what about you? Was he furious?
No, isn't it odd? I thought he would be. But he says if I loved him enough to follow him, that alters things.
I wish I could speak to him.
You can tomorrow. You see, if we got married at once, by some sort of special license, the General says I wouldn't be interned.
And what does Klaus say about that?
Oh, I'll know tomorrow. I think he'll agree. Oh, Daddy, I wish you could be out here.
Vicky, you stupid, darling child. Don't you realize that by Saturday we may be at war with each other?
Klaus doesn't think so.
I suppose he's got Herr Hitler's confidence.
Oh, don't be cross. I couldn't help it. Oh, Klaus's parents send you their best regards.
Yes, and you better give them mine, too. And Vicky, for God's sake, think before you do anything rash. Time is up.
What did she say?
I'm planning to get married by special license. There's so little time.
Oh, if only this four-power conference is a success. What do you think, Arthur?
Oh, God knows. A lot of MPs think that Hitler doesn't realize that we and the French mean business.
But do we?
Well, we've mobilized the fleet, called up the reservists. And as far as getting prepared, well, you should know all about that, Mother. Look at this house. Blackouts, air raid shelters already, huh? Well, I think to bed now. And I hope to sleep,
Hello, Captain Oldershaw. Don't get up. Rosie said you were going back today.
Well, I may still be. I'm waiting for a call from the Admiralty. Now, everything seems to be at a standstill until we hear the result of the meeting of the powers.
Peter thinks it's all a waste of time.
It's worth having a go. I admire the PM.
What time are they meeting?
I imagine Chamberlain's just about arrived. Don't suppose we'll hear anything till tomorrow morning.
Oh, botheration. Fred! Fred, come and give me a hand, will you?
Wait a minute, Eileen. I'm with the commander. That's not the way, Eileen. Careful, you're bending it.
Oh, all right then. What's the commander doing in my kitchen?
He's waiting for the 8 o'clock news. His wireless is packed up.
Here we are. Got the Post and the newspapers.
Jack, what are the headlines?
Just a moment. Peace. Britain will not be involved in a European war this year or next year either. Agreement signed at 12:30 a.m. today.
I knew it.
Now, pull yourself together, Eileen. Come and get ahead with the breakfast. Come on, I'll help you now.
I always knew Mr. Chamberlain would bring it off. Evelyn was right. Where's Arthur?
He's in the kitchen.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Our baby's going to be safe. Darling. Isn't it?
Hello, Rosie. How did you know?
Leave. Well, you forget that I have a wireless in my motor car.
You brat. Lucy.
I've really come from Nanny.
Nanny?
Well, we have 30 evacuees to send home.
Marvellous hours, I hope.
Of course. Good. Now, where's Arthur?
In the kitchen.
Arthur, aren't you pleased?
You must think I'm a curmudgeon. Of course I'm personally pleased. And for you, Rosie, and the newlyweds and the baby. And, of course, it means that Vicky can come back now. That's an enormous relief. But wait till you read the terms of the Munich Agreement. They're impossibly hard on the Czechs.
Yes, well, I'm sure they are. But don't we come first?
That's the majority view. But I mustn't spoil your happiness, dear Rosie.
I put the children in the car, Mrs. Carter.
Oh, yes, Nanny, thank you.
And I'm going to get my coat.
The little boy's put the guinea pig in his gas mask. Is that all right?
Oh, I've never heard the like. Certainly not. Make him remove it at once.
Decent idiots. Well, sit yourself down, Bill. Yeah, like a nightcap.
Good idea. Just 2 fingers.
Yeah.
Interesting people there tonight. Very interesting.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Who is that fella like a ferret? Quite a pleasant ferret, aren't you?
Oh, he's a correspondent. He just come over from Munich.
Has he now? Interesting. Very.
Oh, sorry, Bill. I Didn't sleep much last night. I've been worrying about Vicky.
That's the trouble with getting married. I never had children to worry over.
Can I top you up?
Want to ask your advice, old boy.
Well, go ahead. What, about marriage?
Who said anything about marriage?
Well, you did.
Did I? Funny.
Hilarious.
Actually, I was thinking of all the ships we served in together. Barham, Ark Royal, Hood.
No. Not the Hood, old man. She wasn't built when I retired.
Fine ship, the Hood. Happy ship.
But you give me the Ark Royal any day. Do you remember that party we had in her at Jib?
Oh. That Australian girl. What do we call her?
A blonde bombshell.
That's it. And I was saying about marriage.
Were you?
Oh, do listen, old boy. You see, what I feel is, fine to be a bachelor till you're our ages. No children, no expense, no worries.
That's true. That's very true, Bill.
When one gets older, not so good. After one retires, bit lonely, living at one's club, or in rooms, or being bullied by some bloody housekeeper.
There's something in what you say.
Fact is, I'm thinking of getting married. Charming woman.
Funny. I was thinking of the same thing myself.
I say, we could have a double wedding. Have I met the lady?
Yes.
That lovely journalist I met with you? Very fetching. You go ahead, old boy. To our future wives.
Our future wives.
I'll ask Rosie on Sunday. Lovely lady, Rosie. I'll tell her you approve. Thinks a lot of you, does Rosie. Arthur, I say, damn the fellow. He's half seas over.
There we are. In you go, young fella, my lad. And if you feel like a good yell, indulge yourself.
Phyllis, you know he never yells in the afternoon.
No, he saves that for nights.
Oh, he's got a good look of my Billy, bless him. When's the nurse coming back?
Today. She wanted to see her mother after this week of suspense. There. You comfy? Well, now we'll go for a walk. Jack!
Oh.
Coming!
I'm not going to clear away luncheon.
Well, certainly not.
If you ask me, I think it was most extraordinary of Mrs. Gates to leave a cold meal just because she wanted to go out with Gates.
Well, nobody did ask you.
What did you say, dear?
It's more like this.
Good Lord, what on earth?
Oh, don't let them see us.
Every little Lambeth cow with his little Lambeth cow, you'll find them all doing the Lambeth walk. Hey! Everything's free and easy. Do as you're done.
Mr. Parsons, I do wish you'd keep in time.
Nearly to the front door now.
Oh, we can't go in the front door. That's only for the gentry, that is.
For the Colonel's lady and Judy O'Grady, her sisters under the skin.
Who's Judy O'Grady? She doesn't sound any better than she should be to me.
No colonels here, thank God. Only Commander Bourne, ex-His Majesty's Senior Service, retired. God bless him.
Yeah. All together now. 1, 2, 3. Any time you're Lambeth way, any evening, any day, you'll find them all doing the Lambeth walk. Oh!
joy! Every little lamb
I hardly believe we did this, but why?
Oh, because my foolish husband, they're overjoyed at the thought of peace for our time. I wouldn't mind getting drunk myself.
I'll tell you what. When Nurse Gibson comes back, I'll take you out and we'll celebrate.
I was a beast about the RAF.
There, old girl.
I don't like being called old girl.
Don't you, old girl? By the way, I had a letter from the Air Ministry. I've got an appointment for an interview.
Are you going to keep it?
Well, doesn't seem much point now, does there?
Hey. Can I have a word with you, Commander?
Yes, of course, Gates. Come in. What is it?
It's about the Thanksgiving service that the rector's arranging for next Sunday, sir.
Yes, Gates?
Well, it's Mr. Parsons, sir. He'd like to march for the British Legion.
Is he a member?
Oh, yes, indeed, sir. He was in the army. He joined up in September 1914.
Did he? Good for him.
Yes, sir. Though I gather Mr. Cartland wasn't too pleased, sir. Said there was no call for it.
What regiment?
Royal Welsh Fusiliers, sir. But he was discharged unfit in April of 15.
Oh, caught a blighty, did he?
Well, no, not exactly, sir. He was at the regimental depot acting as a senior mess waiter, seeing as how he's a bit older than most, sir.
Oh, very suitable.
And then he was, he was wounded, so to speak.
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, sir, you won't repeat this, sir, to Mrs. Cartland or Mr. Peter, only Mr. Parsons is a bit sensitive about it, sir.
Oh, of course not, Gates. Not a word.
Well, the fact is, sir, that it was Boxing Night, and the lads in the sergeant's mess were a bit slap-happy, sir. And they let out the regimental mascot just as Mr. Parsons was coming out of the officers' mess.
What was the mascot?
A goat, sir. Ruddy great monster of a billy. Caught Mr. Parsons. Right here, sir.
Yes, very painful.
Yes, sir. Well, he was in hospital for 3 months, sir. And then he was discharged, and he went back to Mr. Cartland. Well, he never told them the rights of it, sir, and now he's wondering, sir, whether he really earned his service medal and whether he should march with the others.
Well,
See, he only joined the Legion, sir, after he came here last year.
Well, of course he should. He sustained his injury in the service of his country and got his medal as gallantly as anybody else. You tell him to join the march with all the others.
Oh, very good, Commander. You won't repeat this, sir?
Oh, no. Mum's the word, Gates.
Well, I'll tell him what you said, sir.
Pompous Parsons and the regimental goat. Oh, dear. And I promised that I wouldn't tell Rosie. Yes? Klaus, my dear boy, so you're back. Well, where's Vicky?
Oh, she's feeling very travel-stained and has gone up to have a bath. Then she'll be down, I hope. So I'm afraid she has a bad headache.
No, I'm not surprised. Anyway, Nanny will take care of her. How was the journey?
Well, we managed to get seats on a flight to Paris and then boat and train. Both packed.
Exhausting.
Yes. But it is good to be back. There's so much I must discuss with you about Vicky and myself. And some things I must ask you.
Oh. No time like the present? Sit yourself down, Klaus.
Thank you, but I prefer to stand. Oh, my mother and father sent you letters, and one also from my mother's brother who's a banker.
Thank you.
Yes. I think I must explain that I know now how foolish I've been about Vicky. When you rang and told us that she had left without your wishes, travelling alone at such a time, I realized then how much indeed she loved me. And I realized that marriage with Vicky, war or no war, would be a very wonderful thing. And for 2 days I worried until at last she arrived. And so I beg you, and so do my parents, to give your consent to our marriage. It is what Vicky wants most.
I don't doubt it. And I don't see how I can refuse. Tell me, how much longer have you got at the Reichsbank in London?
Oh, another 2 years at least, so you will not be losing Vicky for a while. I thought that we could marry soon after Christmas, if that suited you.
What does Vicky think about that?
Now that there's no threat of war, I'm sure she would agree to wait for 3 months.
Yes, well, we must talk about it after luncheon. Oh, we're invited to Layford. They'll be delighted to know that Vicky's got back. And you, too, of course.
And Peter, is he still on standby?
No, he's been sent home, like you.
Ah, that is good indeed.
When does Peter get back?
Well, he came back with me last night while you were all out making whoopee.
He slept on and skipped church.
Oh, very reprehensible.
Yes, very.
How did he enjoy Hendon?
Quite a lot, if you ask me. They kept on working out jolly little calculations about the life expectancy of a pilot officer.
Oh, darling.
Peter said he couldn't help admiring their spirit. They were all a bit juvenile, average age 21. Peter says he and Alec felt quite middle-aged.
Oh, hello, Bill.
Oh, darling, I was just telling Captain Oldershaw about your war experiences.
If you can call them that.
Aren't you mightily relieved, Peter?
Well, I suppose I am. It's been a long week. Hanging around waiting.
Oh, Alec rang, darling. He's going to pick you up after lunch.
Oh, fine. Why on earth is he doing
Some of
that?
our bunch have got to report for duty again. Flying gladiators in formation.
Well, that seems to me to be quite idiotic when the crisis is over.
You tell that to our squadron leader.
Come on, Peter. Let's go for a walk in the garden. It's still an hour and a half to lunch, and I want to talk to you.
All right. If you insist.
Bye.
See you later.
Oh, dear, the young.
Never mind the young. Let's talk about the not-so-young.
Oh, must we?
Yes.
I've asked the Larkfield people over for a drink before lunch. Liz is back, and Vicky and Klaus will be back soon.
Everyone coming home to roost, eh?
Yes.
Rosie, now that things are back to normal, there's something I want to ask you. That frock suits you, my dear. You should always wear that colour. Why don't you?
It's such a relief to get out of WVS uniform. Is that what you wanted to ask me? Why I don't always wear this colour?
You know quite well it isn't. Well, it's not the first time I've asked you.
No?
First time was in Hong Kong when I hardly knew you. And Malta. And then at that ghastly dance in Eton Place.
Bill, please, don't. I do know what you're going to ask me. And much as I like you and enjoy your company, the answer's still no.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm quite sure.
That's funny. I told Arthur, and he advised me to go ahead.
He...
You see, he's decided to get married again. Charming lady.
What's her name? Not Angela Scott?
Yes, that's right. Very wise of him. I expect he'll tell you all about it.
Yes, I expect he will.
So, will you...
I think that was the bell, wasn't it? Must be the lock, cried.
You look very pale. Are you all right?
Yes, I'm all right, Bill.
When they've gone, we must talk again.
Commander Bourne, madam.
Oh, Parsons. Oh, feeling fit?
Yes, very, thank you, sir.
Good. Yeah, I walked over, the others are following.
Arthur, Bill tells me I have to congratulate you.
On what?
On your engagement to Angela Scott.
Bill! What rubbish have you been telling Rosie?
Well, don't you remember, old boy, the other evening we were discussing marriage and you mentioned a very charming lady. Oh, my Lord. I see it now.
See what?
It was Rosie you were talking about. And then you fell asleep.
Oh, charming. You talk about me and fall asleep. If you ask me, you're both talking utter rubbish.
Rosie, I must explain.
So must I.
You're a couple of perfect fools who need your heads knocking together. But bless you both. Shall we have a drink before lunch?
Isn't it peaceful?
Why did you want to come out here?
Well, the house is always so full of people. And I haven't really seen you for days.
I thought you said you wanted to talk to me.
I did. I had time to think during the past week. And I think I was wrong. It isn't really fair to you about having a baby.
You don't mean...
Yes, I do. I was looking at you this morning whilst you slept. You looked about 6 years old. And I suddenly thought how marvellous it would be to have another Peter growing up now that the war scare is over.
My dear darling Laura, that's wonderful. But why didn't you tell me last night?
Last night you were asleep before I could say knife.
So I was. Oh, well, there's always tonight.
You won't be late.
9 o'clock at the latest.
Promise?
Promise.
Peter! Laura!
Look, it's Klaus. They're back.
Hello, Klaus. When did you arrive?
Oh, about 10 o'clock, I drove Vicky from London.
How is she?
Well, she has a headache. She's stayed at Larkfield. But I've talked to the commander, and it's all arranged. Vicky and I to be married soon after Christmas.
Congratulations.
Another wedding, Laura.
She must be blissful.
I hope so. Anyway, she will tell you all about it. But I did not come here to talk of my plans. Only to say to you, Peter, that, well, I'm glad we met down here on the good earth instead of up there, fighting to the death.
Like Hawker and von Richthofen in the Great War?
Exactly. But it is better this way, is it not?
Oh, much better.
How do people feel in Germany?
It is here a very great relief. No one wanted to go to war with the English. And of course the Fuhrer has never wanted it, which is a thing your Prime Minister now understands, just in time.
Only just in time.
Now I must go. I will see you back at lunch, perhaps. Laura, I give you a brotherly kiss. Peter? You know, it is good to see you so happy. I envy you. But soon Vicky and I will be the same.
Darling, oh, it is lovely to see you back. How's your headache?
Not too good. I'm sorry about lunch.
Oh, I understood. You're looking very tired. Where's everybody else?
I'm playing tennis. Granny's resting.
Can you imagine how worried we all were about you?
I must have given Daddy a hellish week, as well as everything else. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, well, all's well that ends well. And I hear that your father has agreed to your wedding. Oh, darling, it's going to be such fun organising it. I remember when I first came here, what is it, 2 years ago? You were in love with Klaus then.
Don't!
What's the matter, darling? Vicky? Are you ill? Shall I get Nanny?
No, don't get anyone. May I talk to you? I must tell someone or I'll go raving mad.
What's happened, Vicky?
I found that Klaus is a Nazi. I could never marry him now, and the appalling thing is that I still love him. I suppose I always will.
Oh, my poor darling. Does Arthur know?
No one knows. Ever since I saw it happen, I felt frozen. I managed to put on some sort of act with Klaus's parents, and I had to listen to his endless chatter about plans on the journey home. But I couldn't talk to him. I couldn't talk to Laura or to Liz. And of course not to Daddy.
Come on. You talk to me. You must. You sit down there.
It was on Friday. We'd been talking to Daddy on the telephone. It was the morning we heard there would be no war. It was all such a relief. We hugged each other and danced round the room. We played a noisy duet. And then Klaus said he must go back to his squadron to see if he was still on standby. He hugged me again and went. And I heard him run downstairs. Then I thought I would wave goodbye to him out of the window. I threw it open, and that's when I saw them.
Saw them? Who, darling?
There were 2 or 3 stormtroopers standing over a middle-aged couple, obviously Jewish, making them scrub the pavement with some whitish liquid. They weren't an attractive pair. She was wearing an expensive fur coat which was getting all splashed, and her hands with lots of rings on them were red and raw. She was crying bitterly. So was he. And the 3 men were laughing and jeering. It was horrible.
Oh, darling, I'm sure it was.
Then I saw Klaus coming out of the front door, and I thought he would try and stop them. And...
Oh, my God.
Instead, he stood with the 3 men, and he was laughing, Rosie, and jeering. I don't think I shall ever forget it. Ever. I rushed to my room and locked the door. Stayed there for hours. That's when I invented my headache. It became a real one later on.
Oh, Vicky, my darling. Oh, your hands are so cold. Have you told Klaus?
No one knows except you.
Yes, well, he's got to be told. And quickly.
I must tell him myself. I could never marry him now. He's a stranger. But I still love him. How can I?
Vicky, where are you? Come now.
Don't go.
Oh, there you are. Hello, Mrs. Cartland. Is the headache better, my darling? You must come outside. The fresh air will do you good. You know, I beat Law and your father 6-4, 6-4. She is a good player. What has happened?
Shall I tell Klaus, or will you?
I will. On Friday, Klaus, I saw you.
You saw what?
When you left to go to your headquarters, I was going to wave goodbye to you. I opened the window and I saw the Jews on the pavement. And you were laughing, Klaus.
So? But it was also funny, Vicky. The Rosens are not nice people. He was a moneylender who caused many people to suffer. They were ostentatious and proud of their vows.
But what the brown shirts were doing was degrading and cruel and unnecessary.
No, Vicky, not unnecessary. These people must learn a lesson.
But in the street, with people walking by pretending not to notice, that was horrible too. What will happen to them now?
The Rosens? Do not bother your pretty head. I hear they're being taken into protective custody.
Oh, you mean a concentration camp?
You know, Rosie, if you say those words to anyone in Munich, they stare at you blankly. They won't even admit they exist. Even General von Heineck...
Vicky, I do not understand you. What has come over you? Just a foolish little incident. Is this going to stop you loving me? All of this I've explained to you about our Jewish problem and about the Führer's so passionate desire for a pure Aryan race. Well, that is why you're such a perfect wife for me. Not one tiny drop of Jewish blood.
Not anymore, Klaus. Not anymore. Would you leave us, Rosie, so that I may say goodbye to Klaus?
Vicky is absolutely right. It would never work. Not now.
This is all a mistake, Vicky. Well, only a few days ago you were leaving your family to come to me. I realized then how much you loved me.
I still do. But I could never marry a Nazi, and that is what you are, Klaus.
You really want me to go after this long time?
Yes, I really do. Please pack, take all your things, your records and things, and go as quickly as you can.
No, Vicky.
Please! Go!
So you really mean it? So, now we go and pack. And I will write my apologies to your father. Heil Hitler!
How hysterical can you get? My darling, cruel Klaus.
Red Queen on Black King, Granny.
Yes, Laura. I saw it. I wish you wouldn't interrupt, dear.
Sorry, Granny. Oh, goodness, the mess they made of London. Look at these pictures of Hyde Park.
Yes. So it's easy enough to fill in a few trenches. Think what might have been today.
Phyllis, that's a very tiresome tune you're playing. Do play something else. Something quiet.
All right.
Why did Vicky go over to Layford with Rosie?
If you ask me, something was up between her and Klaus.
Why do you say that?
I sensed it.
I know it. Klaus left with a lot of luggage, and he bade me goodbye with some ceremony. If you ask me, it's all off.
Oh, no. Poor Vicky. Klaus seemed on top of the world.
Yes, but not Vicky.
Well, perhaps in the end, it'll be all for the best.
Oh, perhaps that's Peter now. He said he'd be back about 9.
Well, good Lord,
Good
what a
evening, Mrs.
surprise.
Paul. May I come in?
Of course.
I'm sorry to burst in like this.
Lady Bourne, how
Oh, nice. So you came back with Peter?
Not exactly. Look, I wonder, could I have a word with you alone, Liz?
Yes, of course. Come into my father's study. He's out at the moment.
So that's how the land lies.
He seemed in a fearful hurry.
I wonder why he came ahead of Peter. Oh, don't you know? Alec drives that Bentley of his like Jehu. Like Jehu?
Furiously.
Oh. Well, what is it that the others mustn't hear?
Something pretty awful has happened.
To Peter?
Yes. His plane crashed on landing. Now, God knows why. He's a fine pilot, but the plane's a mess.
And Peter himself?
Well, the MO told me he hasn't very much hope for him. That's why I thought I'd better come straight here and take Laura back with me, just in case.
Yes, well, where is he?
At Gloucester. It's pretty bloody hard on Laura. I'm sorry, Liz.
Yes, it's appalling. But you needn't worry that you'll have a shrieking, hysterical woman on your hands. Laura isn't like that. She has been in a war herself.
Yes, I know. Peter told me.
Oh, we'd better tell her.
Liz, wait. I suppose you couldn't come too. When do you have to be back at your hospital?
Not for 3 days. Of course I'll come. Laura shouldn't be alone. Laura, darling, there's bad news, I'm afraid.
Peter's dead.
No, he's not dead, but he's very seriously hurt.
People always say that. It's called breaking the news gently.
Well, this time it's true.
Is he conscious?
No, you see, they
So he's not suffering. Well, what are we waiting for? You can tell me what happened all the way.
Would you like me to come too?
Could you? Yes. Laura, you will need your coat. Thank you, Phyllis.
My darling girl. You will ring?
Yes, of course.
I'd better put up the hood.
Someone tell the commander. Rosie, come on, Liz.
What a brave girl she is.
Poor Laura.
Life can be terribly cruel.
Do they know here that you're a doctor?
Yes.
Go and ask them what they think. They'd never tell me.
All right. If you want a nurse, just ring her. I won't be long.
Peter, I'm here. I'm with you. Hear me, darling, wherever you are. Hold on to life. Never forget that for a moment. We can't lose each other now. There's so much ahead of us. So hold on, Peter. Hold on.
Laura, darling, you must be very brave. They doubt very much whether Peter will recover consciousness. I told them that you would rather know.
Peter, don't try to speak, but show you can hear me.
But, Lucy, thou art no alone, in proven foresight may be vain. The best laid schemes o' mice and men gang after glee, and leave us naught but grief and pain, but promised joy. Still, thou art blessed compared with me. The present only toucheth thee. But oh, I backward cast my eye on prospects drear, and forward, oh, I canna see, I guess, and fear. It's sad.
So I remember the first time you read us that. I must have been about 6.
No, I think he was 7. His 7th birthday. The First World War was just over.
I can't believe it, can you? There isn't going to be another war after all. Last week at the hospital, it seemed so horribly close.
Seemed pretty close here, too.
Perhaps it still is. Waiting like some great beast ready to pounce. Not yet, but in a year or two, maybe.
Oh, Vic, don't be such a misery.
Well, your wee sister hasn't so very much to be cheery about just now, you know.
Vicky, I'm sorry. It's very thoughtless of me.
Liz!
There's Alec.
Yes,
Better go. The shadows are beginning to lengthen.
Yes, we better go in too.
Oh, not yet. Just one more poem first.
Then let us pray that come it may, as come it will for all that sense and worth o'er all the earth may bear degree and all that. For all that and all that, it's coming yet for all that man to man, the world o'er, shall brothers be for all that.
Been in a hospital all that time.
Ah, there you are, Liz. Poor Alec was getting quite worried.
I was not. Are you ready, Liz?
Yes.
We're going to celebrate.
Peter's recovery.
Oh, hardly. He'll be there for 3 weeks still.
Yes, but he is going to live.
I'm so glad for Laura.
Well, good night all. I won't be late.
Won't you?
Oh, goodbye, dears. Enjoy yourself, Alec.
I certainly will.
If anything should come of that, I shall be delighted.
And I don't hope too much. Remember, Liz is still a doctor. And a socialist.
Yes. I wonder how Alec would cope with that.
No, Alice. Well, I must go too. I promised to take some things to Peter in the hospital, but I shall just pop in and say goodbye to Arthur first. Arthur, I just popped in to say goodbye, but I can't stay because I promised to take some things to Peter in the hospital. Oh, thank God he's going to be all right.
I know. I'm so very grateful. Rosie, my dear, there's something I want to tell you.
Yes?
I have decided to resign my post as PPS.
Oh, Arthur.
I must. Duff Cooper was my chief. And he's had the strength of mind to resign, so the least I can do is to support him.
Won't you sleep on it?
No need. My mind is completely made up. I just wanted to let you know before anyone else.
Bless you. Well, I suppose you know best what you're doing. I must go.
Oh, Rosie, telephone me when you get back, will you? There's something I want to say to you.
Can't you say it now?
All right. Don't leave it too long before you marry me.
Arthur, are you proposing to me?
Well, of course I am. You silly woman.
You would. Just when I can't stay. I must go to the hospital.
Well, will you marry me or won't you?
Of course I will, you silly man. Oh, Arthur. Darling. Everything back to normal?
Back to normal. I wonder. October 4th, 1938. My dear Prime Minister, after a great deal of heart-searching and careful thought, I am writing to tender to you my resignation from my post as PPS.